Chapter 103. How is this possible? I clearly remember that Xing Shan's Azura demon flag only had 180 demonic souls. How could the number of demonic souls suddenly double? Jun Moyo looked at Xing Shan's flag in disbelief. She had fought with Xing Shan before, so she naturally knew the power of the Azura demon flag. Could it be? Thinking about Xing Shan's recent seclusion, Jun Moyo suddenly understood. It turned out that Xing Shan's talk about cultivating divine abilities was just a cover-up. His real goal was to refine this supreme-grade precious weapon. Jun Haotian, the Azura demon flag's soul annihilation formation, is something that even a 7th or 8th stage Yuan Dan cultivator wouldn't dare to face. Let's see how you're going to break it. Xing Shan looked at Jun Haotian with a sinister smile. Then, without holding back, he activated the Azura demon flag. In the next moment, 360 demonic souls roared and swept towards Jun Haotian like yikshaws. They madly eroded Jun Haotian's true yuan, as if they wanted to drag him into hell. When Jun Haotian saw these Azura devil souls, he revealed a mocking expression. Using such evil energy against me, you're really digging your own grave. In the next moment, the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth was activated. Roar! Then numerous golden primordial mammoths slowly appeared behind Jun Haotian. Each of them carried a sun on their back and stepped on hell. The strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth. With the bearing of a god, it suppressed hell forever. It could be said that the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth was the nemesis of such evil energy. In the next moment, the ancient mammoths roared, shaking the 9 heavens and 10 earths. At this moment, Jun Haotian didn't want to waste any more time. He wanted to end the battle quickly. In the next moment, the wholeness secret technique was activated. Instantly, his battle prowess increased tenfold. Boom! Jun Haotian's aura, which was more than 10 times stronger than before, suddenly emitted from his body and swept towards the surroundings of the life and death ring. The archaic mammoths grew in size, trampling on the heavens and killing deities. Under the boundless suppressive aura, the Azura demonic souls seemed to have met their nemesis and directly exploded. When the demonic soul shattered, the soul annihilation evil spirit array was naturally broken as well. Boundless chi rampaged on the life and death platform. In the next moment, Jun Haotian slowly took a step forward. Roar! Heaven and earth seemed to be rumbling as boundless aura surged. Xing Shan directly punched towards Xing Shan, with a tenfold increase in combat power. Boom! It was an ordinary punch, but it seemed like it was going to tear the entire space apart. Seeing the power of Jun Haotian's punch, everyone present, including the true disciples and the 7 hall elders, stood up, their faces filled with disbelief. Was such a terrifying punch really something that a martial artist, who had just broken through to the Yuan Dan realm, could perform? Boom! 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 As Jun Haotian's punch approached Xing Shan, wherever it passed, space rumbled and the entire life and death ring trembled. Even the evil spirit in the air disappeared completely. Crack! In the next moment, Xing Shan looked at the Azura demonic flag in his hand in disbelief. A dignified supreme-grade artifact was actually shattered. The Azura demonic flag was directly torn apart and turned into a rag. Jun Haotian's punch had not completely landed, and a supreme-grade artifact was already shattered. No. Impossible. At this moment, Xing Shan's soul was palpitating. In his eyes, Jun Haotian had turned into a god who ruled over the life and death of all living things. This punch was less than 3 meters away from him, but cracks had already appeared on his body. Countless drops of blood spurted out. Xing Shan's body seemed to have turned into porcelain and was about to shatter. It was just like what the elder said. In the face of absolute power, any moves and tricks were laughable. This punch had not completely landed, and it was about to extinguish Xing Shan's spiritual fire. In the face of a life-or-death crisis, Xing Shan suddenly fell into madness. He frantically took out the treasures in his hand and attacked Jun Haotian. As a true disciple of Lengya Holy Land and a confidant of Xiang Holy Sun, Xing Shan naturally had a lot of treasures on him. There were true weapons and precious weapons, and there were hundreds of them. At this moment, he desperately used these treasures in an attempt to resist Jun Haotian's terrifying power. But everything he did was in vain. Before the treasures he took out could touch Jun Haotian, they were crushed into powder by the suppressive force in the void. Hundreds of treasures only made Jun Haotian's fist pause for a moment. Boom! In the next moment, Jun Haotian's fist had already arrived in front of Xing Shan. It was less than an inch. Xing Shan would definitely die under this punch. With his physical body, there was no way he could withstand such a terrifying punch. However, at this moment, a purple divine pearl emerged from Xing Shan's body. In an instant, tens of thousands of purple rays pierced the sky. Jun Haotian's incomparably terrifying punch was actually blocked by this purple light. At the same time, a figure walked out of the vast purple light. Like an emperor, he had the bearing of a monarch. Who's there? Seeing that the violet light had blocked him, Jun Haotian immediately stopped and looked at the violet light solemnly. Although he knew that the figure in front of him was not the real body, even so, he could still feel that this person was really strong. At this moment, everyone below the combat ring looked at him. When the purple light dissipated, the figure appeared. He was wearing a purple robe and had purple hair. He had a handsome face and an extraordinary aura. He stood there and protected Xing Shan behind him. The complexions of the true disciples changed when they saw the face of this person. Even Jun Mou's complexion had become very dignified. The 7 elders could no longer sit in the void calmly and kept frowning. It's the Holy Sun. Xiang Holy Sun. The Holy Sun of Langya Sacred Ground. Why is he in the combat ring? Didn't the Holy Sun go to the demon clan as a guest? This is the clone of the Holy Sun, not the real body. A true disciple spoke and confirmed the origin of that person. Although it was still the Xiang Holy Sun, it was not the real body. No one expected the Holy Sun to appear at this moment. Let him go. At this moment, the figure of the Xiang Holy Sun said slowly in the combat ring. He was very calm and just stood there. Even in the face of Jun Haotian's powerful true essence, his heart did not waver at all. I guess you're the big shot behind Long Ziyue and Xing Shan, right? Jun Haotian looked at the purple figure in front of him and confirmed his origin. He guessed right. The big shot behind Long Ziyue was the Holy Sun of Langya Sacred Ground. He was the future supreme figure of the entire Langya Sacred Ground. Let him go, and I'll let bygones be bygones. The clone of the Xiang Holy Sun spoke again. He looked at Jun Haotian. He still had a condescending attitude and stood there calmly. However, Jun Haotian laughed arrogantly when he heard this. Let bygones be bygones. Sorry, I can't do it. Chapter 104. Can't do it. Upon hearing that, Xiang Holy Sun slowly lifted his head and looked at Jun Haotian. He said word by word. You'd better think carefully before you answer. I've thought it through. Xing Shan will die today. Looking at Xiang Holy Sun, Jun Haotian sneered. Then, he suddenly looked at the 7 hall elders in the void. Elders, life and death must be determined on the life and death ring. This is the unchanging rule of Langya Holy Land. Now that someone wants to break this rule, are you going to sit back and do nothing? Jun Haotian's voice was sonorous and powerful. It resounded throughout the entire void. Upon hearing Jun Haotian's words, the 7 hall elders in the void could not sit still anymore. Holy Sun, life and death must be determined on the life and death ring. Please leave immediately, Holy Sun. As the enforcement elder, the Kaiyang Hall elder immediately stood up and said to Xiang Holy Sun. Elder Lu is still as impartial as ever. Upon hearing that, Xiang Holy Sun looked up and glanced at the Kaiyang Hall elder. Then he said slowly, life and death must be determined on the life and death ring. At this moment, am I the Holy Sun, not on the life and death ring? Shouldn't I also be determined on the life and death ring? Holy Sun, you. Upon hearing that, the Kaiyang Hall elder was furious. Facing the anger of the Kaiyang Hall elder, Xiang Holy Sun did not care. He looked at Jun Haotian and said calmly, let him go and I'll spare your life. Spare my life. Upon hearing that, Jun Haotian chuckled. Then, he stared at Xiang Holy Sun fearlessly. You want me to let him go? Hee, who do you think you are? What right do you have to ask me to let him go? The moment Jun Haotian opened his mouth, his words stunned everyone present. That was Xiang Holy Sun. He was the only Holy Sun in the Langya Holy Land, and had the potential to inherit the position of Holy Lord in the future. Even on the martial god continent, such a noble figure would be a top-notch existence. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was talking to Xiang Holy Sun in such an arrogant manner. He was simply courting death. Although Jun Haoyan had exceeded everyone's expectations and defeated the true disciple, Xing Shan, he had been defeated. However, the Holy Sun was many times stronger than Xing Shan. In addition to Xiang Holy Sun's noble status, Jun Haoyan had committed a serious crime by offending his superior. Jun Haoyan, don't be presumptuous in front of the Holy Sun. At this moment, the elder of Kaiyang Hall in the sky scolded Jun Haoyan. Although he did not like what the Holy Sun had done, the Holy Sun's dignity was not to be violated. As the elder of Kaiyang Hall, who was in charge of law enforcement, Jun Haoyan had insulted the Holy Sun. He had no choice but to speak up. The Holy Sun? Hee, as the Holy Sun, you think you can do whatever you want. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan's expression did not change at all. His black eyes shone with a strange light as he muttered to himself, murmur, "You have successfully attracted my attention, but this is not a good thing." On the opposite side, Xiang Holy Sun was still high and mighty. Even after hearing Jun Haoyan's words, his tone was still very calm. "You are just an incarnation. What right do you have to talk nonsense here? On the arena of life and death, get out of my way." Jun Haoyan continued to speak. Facing the incarnation of Xiang Holy Sun, he showed no respect at all. Instead, he was arrogant and unruly. However, after hearing what Jun Haoyan said, Xiang Holy Sun's eyes flashed with murderous intent. "How dare you?" Then, Xiang Holy Sun said softly as he slowly pointed out a finger. Yes, it was just one finger. Boom! As soon as he pointed out his finger, endless violet light gathered, and a chilling murderous intent filled the air. Every ray of violet light contained enough energy to easily kill a Yuan Dan state overlord. Xiang Holy Sun made his move as if he was the ruler of the world. Jun Haoyan was not afraid as petals appeared around him. There were tens of thousands of petals scattered on the arena of life and death. Zung! All the petals bloomed and shot out rays of dazzling divine light. Every petal had the figure of Jun Haoyan. Tens of thousands of petals bloomed at the same time and surrounded Jun Haoyan, as if there were 3,000 great worlds. With a thought, the flowers bloomed, and the overlord descended. Jun Haoyan was going to fight against Xiang Holy Sun's incarnation. Countless disciples of the Langya Holy Land were dumbfounded. They could not believe it. He was too domineering and arrogant. The violet light and the petals clashed together. The entire arena of life and death shook, and the light shield shook. Xiang Holy Sun was powerful, but he was still an incarnation. On the other hand, Jun Haoyan was using a Supreme Emperor art. Boom! After a while, Xiang Holy Sun's incarnation lost its balance and started to disappear under the countless petals. When everyone saw this scene, their gazes gradually became sluggish. Jun Haoyan had destroyed Xiang Holy Sun's incarnation. This was a slap to Xiang Holy Sun's face. After offending Xiang Holy Sun, how could Jun Haoyan establish himself in the Langya Holy Land? Very good, very good. Xiang Holy Sun was really angry when he felt the power of his incarnation dissipating. However, his incarnation had already started to disappear. No matter what, he could not stop Jun Haoyan from killing Xing Shan. "I hope you live well. I will end you myself." This was Xiang Holy Sun's last sentence. He was very calm. However, no one could feel the anger in his voice. "Holy Sun, don't forget that the Holy Sun's position is still undecided." Jun Haoyan sneered when he saw Xiang Holy Sun disappear. He muttered to himself, murmur. Then, Jun Haoyan slowly turned his gaze to Xing Shan. Xing Shan's body trembled. He was in despair. He did not beg for mercy. In order to kill him, Jun Haoyan did not hesitate to become enemies with Xiang Holy Sun. He even destroyed Xiang Holy Sun's incarnation. At this moment, how could he be merciful to Hehe? "Even if I die, I will drag you down with me." Suddenly, Xing Shan's eyes flashed with a hint of madness. In the next moment, he burned his qi and blood, and activated a secret technique. He used the teleportation technique, and appeared in front of Jun Haoyan. At the same time, A Yuan Dan appeared in his sea of energy, and it emanated a destructive aura. Shit. He's going to detonate his Yuan Dan. Outside the life and death arena, Jun Mou's face couldn't help but change when he saw this scene, and his entire body trembled. A Yuan Dan realm cultivator detonating his Yuan Dan was something that even an Imperial Dao realm cultivator would not be able to endure. That was unless they had a terrifying physical body. Otherwise, a Yuan Dan realm cultivator like Jun Haotian would not be able to endure it at all. Elders, is there any way to remove the formation? Haotian has already won. Jun Mou turned into a streak of light and appeared in front of all the elders. The elders reacted as well, and they said with troubled expressions, once the life and death arena's formation is activated, it can't be removed without blood, unless an immortal realm cultivator intervenes. But at this moment, Xing Shan's golden core detonated. Boom! A boundless destructive aura erupted, and a rain of blood danced in the air. Everyone's expression changed. How could Jun Haotian survive Yuan Dan's self-detonation? But at this moment, a supreme holy aura erupted from the life and death arena. The boundless aura pierced the sky, and the entire life and death arena rumbled. Boundless golden chi and blood filled the world, and the blood-red life and death arena turned golden. The vast aura alarmed the truly powerful existences in the Langya sacred ground. The supreme holy aura gushed out and covered the world. It penetrated the life and death arena's formation and caused countless disciples to tremble. This was a kind of pressure that came from the soul. All the elders stood up straight. Their faces were pale. It was not because of fear. It was the aura of the life and death arena that made them extremely excited. Jun Moyo's expression was a little dazed at this moment. This is the aura of a holy physique. Chapter 105. The 7 elders were shocked when they felt the aura of the divine being emanating from the life and death ring. Their eyes were filled with disbelief as they looked at the golden blood chi emanating from the life and death ring. This aura, it could not be wrong. Even though they had not seen the divine being with their own eyes, the 7 elders were experienced and knowledgeable. They already had an answer in their hearts based on this aura. The aura that erupted from the divine being not only shocked them. At the same time, the peerless aura that erupted from the life and death ring made some of the Langya disciples, who did not have a high cultivation level, tremble. Even their souls were trembling. Jun Moyo looked at the life and death ring with a shocked expression. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, the space vibrated, and a few figures suddenly appeared in the sky above. These figures stood in the void. Each of them was 100 feet tall, and looked like a giant. The 7 giant figures stood between heaven and earth, as if they could move mountains and fill the sea with a wave of their hand. This was the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth, a technique that could only be used by those in the Dharma stage. These 7 extremely powerful figures were naturally the 7 temple masters of the Langya sacred ground. It's really the aura of the divine being. There's no doubt about it. It can't beat Xing Shan. There can only be one possibility. Jun Haotian is the peerless genius with the divine being. The temple masters spoke like a huge bell that shook the mountains and rivers. Greetings, temple masters. Everyone present, including the true disciples and the elders, bowed to the 7 figures in the sky and said, the 7 temple masters held extremely high positions in the Langya sacred ground. Other than the holy master and the grand elder, they had the most power, and their cultivation levels had reached the Dharma stage. However, the 7 temple masters turned a blind eye to the disciples and elders below. Their eyes were fixed on the life and death ring. Seeing this, the crowd could only smile helplessly and continue to look at the life and death ring. On the life and death ring, the terrifying golden blood chi had not completely dissipated. Everyone had the same question in their hearts. Who is this person with the divine being? Although they already had a clear answer in their hearts, they still wanted to confirm it. Finally, at that moment, the golden blood chi completely disappeared. A silhouette appeared. He was dressed in white, and his style was peerless. Yuan Dan's self-destruction did not harm him at all. To be able to shatter a top-grade artifact, the strength of his physical body had reached an unprecedented level. Of course, This was also because Jun Haoyan had used the demonic heaven-devouring art to absorb a portion of the energy. Otherwise, with his cultivation, he wouldn't have been able to withstand Yuan Dan's self-detonation, because his saintly body hadn't been fully developed yet. If his divine body had reached the small success realm, even if he blew up his magical artifact, it would still be impossible to harm him. When Jun Haoyan's figure appeared, because of Xing Shan's self-destruction, the array formation on the life and death platform had automatically been removed. The aura of the saint physique was already surging within his body. The golden qi and blood were faintly discernible, describing his peerless physique. No wonder Jun Haoyan was able to kill Xing Shan with only Yuan Dan. It turns out that he has a holy body. The holy body is as powerful as the legends say. Looking at the golden qi and blood lingering all over Jun Haoyan's body, the palace masters couldn't help but exclaim. When they saw Jun Haoyan come out, they all felt that it was unreal. No one would have thought that Jun Haoyan, a mere outer sanctum disciple, would actually have a holy body. If Jun Haoyan had revealed his holy body at the beginning, perhaps even Xing Shan wouldn't have dared to cause trouble for him, and the 7 palace elders wouldn't have allowed him to sign the life and death contract. Even Jun Moyo, who was the closest to Jun Haoyan, looked at Jun Haoyan in disbelief. Her red lips were slightly parted, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Her brother actually had a holy body. Having a holy body meant that Jun Haoyan was ranked among the strongest of the younger generation in the Wushan continent. With the talent of a holy body, one's talent had reached the peak. Now, his only shortcoming was his cultivation. However, for a holy body, it was extremely fast to improve one's cultivation. As long as a genius with a holy body didn't die, he would almost certainly cultivate to the immortal realm. Moreover, he would be the most powerful immortal realm, invincible among his peers. Even the Langya sacred ground didn't have such an existence. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would be another holy body in the Langya sacred ground. Just as everyone was about to move forward, a majestic voice suddenly came from the void. In an instant, the earth rumbled, and even the sun and moon in the void seemed to be trembling. An invincible aura spread out and suppressed the entire Langya sacred ground. Countless disciples, elders, and palace masters were shocked at this moment. Jun Haoyan, who was in the life and death ring, slowly turned around when he heard this. A middle-aged man in green slowly appeared in the depths of the Langya sacred ground. With every step he took, countless green lotuses bloomed. He stood there as if he was the ruler of heaven and earth. He was a peerless expert. Even in the entire martial god continent, he would be a top expert. After seeing the middle-aged man in green, countless people knelt on one knee. Even the palace masters bowed directly. "Welcome, Holy Lord! Welcome, Holy Lord! Welcome, Holy Lord!" For a moment, the entire Langya sacred ground was in an uproar. Even the true disciples who had been in seclusion appeared and bowed. This middle-aged man was one of the top figures in the entire martial god continent. The Holy Lord of Langya Tao Xian, an immortal realm expert, a true powerhouse. Seeing the Holy Lord of Langya, Jun Haoyan's eyes flashed with an undetectable light. However, he quickly hid it and bowed slightly with the crowd. "Greetings, Holy Lord." After the Holy Lord of Langya appeared, his gaze was fixed on Jun Haoyan. After hearing Jun Haoyan's words, he smiled slightly. "Very good. You're not bad." How many people in the sacred ground could accept the Holy Lord's personal praise? Everyone looked at Jun Haoyan enviously. "Thank you, Holy Lord, for your praise." Jun Haoyan acted neither servile nor overbearing. All of this was actually part of his plan. When Xiang Holy Sun appeared, he knew that things would not end like this. After all, Xiang Holy Sun was the Holy Sun of Langya. Not only was he powerful, but he also had great authority. If he offended such a person, Jun Haoyan would have a hard time in the future in Langya sacred ground. If he wanted to go against such a person, he had to find a backer. He had to expose his talent and attract the attention of the real big shots in Langya sacred ground. Although he had defeated Xing Shan, it was still not enough. After all, Xing Shan was only a true disciple. Some people would not take notice of him. Therefore, Jun Haoyan chose to reveal his holy physique without any hesitation. Even the Holy Lord of Langya could not underestimate the existence of a holy physique. As expected, the Holy Lord of Langya really appeared. If he could attract the attention of such a big shot, even the Xiang Holy Sun would not be able to do anything to him. Getting the Holy Lord of Langya to notice him was Jun Haoyan's plan. And now, he seemed to have succeeded. Chapter 106. There were only a few holy bodies in the entire continent. As long as he revealed his holy body, the Langya holy ground would definitely pay attention to him. When the Xiang Holy Sun appeared, Jun Haoyan already had the idea of revealing his identity as a holy body, thinking that he had attracted the attention of the Holy Lord of Langya. Even Jun Haoyan could not help but feel proud. I know your purpose of revealing your holy body. At this moment, the Holy Lord of Langya spoke again. What he said made Jun Haoyan's heart tremble. Tao Xian's eyes seemed to see through everything. Clearly, the other party already knew what he was thinking. Don't worry, I don't care about this. Just as Jun Haoyan was feeling nervous, the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, spoke again with a smile. Jun Haoyan was stunned for a moment. Then he realized something. Tao Xian was a giant in the immortal realm. How could he care about the thoughts of an ant like him? No matter what schemes Jun Haoyan had, they were useless in the face of absolute strength. Thank you, Holy Lord. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan said graciously. Tao Xian did not know what means he had used, but the conversation between the two just now did not seem to have been heard by others. There was no reaction at all. Then, the Holy Lord of Langya walked step by step to Jun Haoyan's side. As the Holy Lord of Langya, I declare. Tao Xian glanced at Jun Haoyan, then turned around and said to everyone present. Jun Haoyan is conferred as the second holy son of the Langya holy ground. In 3 days, the conferring ceremony will begin. What? Conferring Jun Haoyan as the holy son? As soon as Dao Yin said this, everyone present instantly fell into a daze. Even Jun Haoyan stared at the Holy Lord of Langya in disbelief. What kind of operation was that? Directly confer upon him the title of Holy Son? When the others reacted, cries of surprise rang out one after another. The various palace masters, elders, and true disciples were all greatly shaken. Why would the Holy Lord suddenly confer the title of Holy Son to Jun Haoyan? No one could understand. Holy Son. He was one of the most respected figures in the entire human sacred land. Every human holy land could only have 2 holy son. Of course, some holy lands would have a holy son and a holy daughter. But no matter what, a holy land could only have 2 such existences. The future ruler of the holy land, the position of Holy Lord, would be decided by these 2 people. The other Xiang Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land had shown amazing talent from the very beginning. From an outer disciple, he had climbed all the way to the position of Holy Son. His strength had been deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. But Jun Haoyan was different. Although what he had done during this period could be said to be earth-shattering, he challenged the ethereal peak alone and had a holy body. But with his current strength of LV1 Yuan Dan, it was difficult for him to convince the masses. Moreover, before becoming a holy son, one had to go through many tests. Only after passing all the tests could one be qualified to become a holy son. Jun Haoyan had just become a holy son of Langya. It was really against the rules to confer upon him the position of holy son. Everyone frowned slightly when they heard the news. Tao Xian's words were too sudden for them. Although Jun Haoyan had a holy body, and was indeed qualified to become a holy son in the future. But now, Jun Haoyan's cultivation was only at LV1 Yuan Dan. In the 180,000 years that the Langya Holy Land had been established in the Einherjar continent, no one had ever become a holy son at this cultivation level. Even the few holy bodies in history did not make an exception. Tao Xian's decision was undoubtedly a precedent for the entire Langya Holy Land. After hearing the Holy Lord of Langya's words, almost everyone's first reaction was to reject it. But no one dared to say anything. There was no other reason. It was because Tao Xian was almost the most powerful Holy Lord of the Langya Holy Land in the past 50,000 years. His words were the will of the entire Langya Holy Land. Even the Grand Elder couldn't object. not to mention the 7 palace masters and elders who were present. To be able to become temple masters of the 7 temples, they were naturally Tao Xian's confidants. When Tao Xian was still the Holy Sun, they had always followed Tao Xian, and were very familiar with Tao Xian's style of doing things. If they objected at this time, they would undoubtedly be courting death. Like the others, Jun Haoyan did not expect Tao Xian to suddenly confer him the title of the Holy Son of Langya. This disciple thanks the Holy Lord. After pondering for a moment, Jun Haoyan decisively agreed. He had done so much for the title of the Holy Son. Although it was a little early, it would be a pity to miss such an opportunity. I believe that you will not disappoint me. Tao Xian smiled, and did not give Jun Haoyan a chance to speak. In 3 days, the conferring ceremony will begin. With that, Tao Xian turned and left, instantly disappearing from this world. Although he had appeared for less than half an hour, the Holy Lord of Langya had made a decision that was enough to shake the entire Holy Land, and even the Wushan continent. The title of the Holy Son of every Holy Land was extraordinary. After the conferring ceremony, it would be announced to the world, and attract the attention of countless people. However, Tao Xian had decided on the title of the Holy Son of Langya within half an hour. No one knew what the Holy Lord of Langya was thinking, and no one dared to ask. As for the Holy Land disciples present, they looked at each other in dismay. Haoyan. Jun Moyo walked to Jun Haoyan's side, and looked at the young man in front of her in disbelief. How did her younger brother suddenly become the Holy Son? Until now, she felt as if she was in a dream. Let's leave first, Jun Haoyan said. Then, he turned into a stream of light with Jun Moyo, and returned to Moyushan Peak. As for the other disciples and elders, they also left with a confused look on their faces. As for Tsing Shan, he was dead, and no one cared at all. This was the truest reflection of strength. Langya Sacred Realm. This was the most central area of the Langya Holy Land. Only the Supreme Elders and the Holy Lord could live in the Langya Sacred Realm. It was like another space, with endless divine light and pavilions. It was like a fairyland. The yuan qi of heaven and earth here was 10,000 times stronger than the outside world. It was a true paradise, and there were only a few in the entire Wushan continent. At this moment, the Holy Lord of Langya had just returned to the sacred realm. Greetings, Holy Lord. A few gray figures appeared behind Tao Xian with some respect. They were 3 elders. They looked shriveled and aged. However, the aura that occasionally leaked out of their bodies was earth-shattering. Their cultivation was only below that of the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian. I know what you want to ask. Looking at the 3 old men, Tao Xian smiled and said slowly, the position of the Holy Son is of great importance. The Holy Lord is indeed a little careless this time. One of the Supreme Elders said with a slight frown. Even they did not know about Tao Xian's decision in advance. No, it's not careless at all. He is worthy of this position. The Holy Lord of Langya continued. Dao Profound's attitude. The various Grand Elders were immediately somewhat surprised. He has a holy body, so he is indeed worthy of this position. However, his current cultivation. To be honest, the Supreme Elders were not opposed to Jun Haoyan becoming the Holy Son. On the contrary, they were supportive of it. Chapter 107. A holy physique was a rare sight. Even for top forces like the sacred grounds, it was extremely precious. The few Grand Elders wouldn't object to conferring Jun Haoyan, who had a saint physique, as a saint prince. However, in their opinion, Jun Haoyan was still too weak. Even if they wanted to confer him the title of the Holy Son, they should wait until he grew stronger. Becoming the Holy Son meant that he would be in the limelight in the future. Therefore, he would be the center of attention. If he was not careful, he could lose his life. In fact, the Grand Elders had planned to take Jun Haoyan as their last disciple and nurture him for 10 years before letting him become the Holy Son. I understand your concerns. Dao Yin looked at the few Grand Elders and slowly opened his mouth to say, did you all know? When Jun Haoyan fought with Tsing Shan and Wang Su, he used 4 different Supreme Emperor techniques. Supreme Emperor techniques? 4 of them? Hearing this, the few Supreme Elders were all extremely shocked. Even the Langya sacred ground only had one supreme emperor technique. It was the same for the other sacred grounds. However, Jun Haoyan had taken out 4 supreme emperor techniques. What did that mean? It meant that Jun Haoyan had obtained the inheritance of 4 divine illusionary realm sovereigns. Divine illusionary realm, titled supreme. But where did this inheritance come from? They knew Jun Haoyan's background very well. If it were not for a genius like Jun Moyo, they would not have paid attention to an ordinary family. Sacred Lord, what exactly? Hearing this, a grand elder asked in confusion. Tao Xian smiled and said meaningfully, "Do you still remember the change in Kunlun?" Hearing this, the grand elders frowned and nodded suspiciously. Of course they remembered it. However, what did it have to do with conferring Jun Haoyan the title of the Holy Sun? The change in Kunlun, could it be? Suddenly, as if remembering something, the grand elders turned to look at Tao Xian in disbelief. Facing the gazes of the few supreme elders, Dao Yin smiled, but did not say anything. Seeing this, the supreme elders immediately confirmed their thoughts, and their expressions became somewhat excited. They finally understood why the Holy Lord wanted to make Jun Haoyan, the Holy Sun, in advance. Sacred Lord, do you mean that Jun Haoyan might have had the same opportunity as the one from the Kunlun Holy Land? A Grand Supreme Elder asked. The Kunlun Holy Land was ranked first among the 7 holy lands of the human race. It was much stronger than the Langya Holy Land. The Kunlun Holy Land was also one of the 7 great holy lands of the human clan. It was also the strongest holy land among the 7 great holy lands. It was the first holy land of the human clan to be established by the God realm. It could be said that the Kunlun Holy Land held a supreme position in the human race. No, that person is no longer a member of the Kunlun Holy Land. Another supreme elder thought of something, and his eyes were filled with fear as he hurriedly corrected him. When they talked about the person from the Kunlun Holy Land, there was a hint of admiration in their tone. That person could be said to be a peerless talent. He was truly a peerless figure who had dominated an era. Alright, this matter ends here. Don't mention it again in the future. Even if Jun Haoyan wasn't in that situation, with his status as a holy body, he is qualified to be the Holy Sun. Tao Xian waved his hand and decided on this matter. From the beginning until now, Tao Xian's application had not changed much. He appeared to be unfathomable, and even the supreme elders did not know what he was thinking. I don't have any objections to Jun Haoyan being the Holy Sun. However, if he wants to be the Holy Sun, I'm afraid it won't be that simple. Another supreme elder said slowly. The position of the second Holy Sun of the Langya Holy Land had been vacant for a long time. Some powerful heavenly spirit array true disciples had long regarded this position as their own, and did not allow anyone to encroach on it. Now, if Jun Haoyan wanted to be the Holy Sun with the strength of a mere LV1 Yuan Dan, it would be difficult. If Jun Haoyan wanted to be the Holy Sun of a LV1 Yuan Dan, it would be difficult. There would be a lot of fighting. Moreover, becoming the Holy Sun was not that simple. Of course, Tao Xian and the Supreme Elders did not care about this. A martial artist had to go against the heavens and rise in all kinds of battles. This situation was the same in the Holy Land. In the Holy Land, there was never a lack of geniuses. Only by standing out among these geniuses could one be qualified to take over the position of the Holy Lord. Moreover, there was another Xiang Holy Sun in the Holy Land. That person was also in existence who had stepped on countless geniuses, and was also not a simple person. Pass down the order. The crowning ceremony in 3 days is not to be sloppy. Tao Xian spoke again. The other supreme elders bowed slightly, and then disappeared. The entire Langya Holy Land returned to peace once again. As the current Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian had his hands behind his back. His eyes seemed to see through everything and saw Jun Haoyan on Emoyushan Peak. I hope you won't disappoint me, Tao Xian muttered to himself, and also turned to leave. At this level, he was cultivating almost every moment. Langya Holy Land, Emoyushan Peak. Sister, why are you looking at me like that? Jun Haoyan stood in the Emoyushan Hall, his face full of helplessness. Beside him, Jun Moyu's eyes were fixed on him. Ever since he came back, the look in his eyes had not changed. Holy physique, Good you even hid it from me? I was worried about you for so long. After a long time, Jun Moyo spoke with a trace of complaint in his tone. If she had known that Jun Haoyan was a holy physique, she would not have been so worried. Especially during the battle with Sing Shan, Jun Moyo almost went into battle himself. She would not allow her brother to be hurt in the slightest, but she did not expect Jun Haoyan to be a holy physique. Even she was shocked to the extreme by this news. There were only a few holy physiques in the entire Wushan continent. How could she not be shocked? I just found out about it not long ago. Jun Haoyan opened his mouth and explained casually. He could not say that he cultivated it himself, could he? That would be too shocking. Tell me, did you get the inheritance of some big shot? Seeing Jun Haoyan's perfunctory answer, Jun Moyo did not care about this, and only asked with a serious expression. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan was a little confused, but he nodded. Originally, I thought that even if you were a holy physique, the Holy Master could not have been conferred the title of the Holy Son so quickly. But if that was the case, then it makes sense. As he spoke, Jun Moyo lowered his head and thought about many things. And Jun Moyo's words had a hidden meaning, which instantly aroused Jun Haoyan's interest. Others might not be able to tell that he had a Supreme Emperor technique, but the Holy Lord of Langya definitely could. However, the Holy Lord of Langya did not mention this at all, and even gave him the position of the Holy Son for no reason. If it wasn't for the fact that Jun Haoyan didn't sense any danger from the Holy Lord, he would have left immediately. How terrifying was it to be targeted by someone at the Holy Master's level? Sister, do you know something? Jun Haoyan asked directly. He wanted to know what other secrets there were. Hearing this, Jun Moyo looked deeply at Jun Haoyan and nodded. Do you know about the change in Kunlun? The change in Kunlun? Hearing this, Jun Haoyan shook his head. He had no impression of it at all. Jun Moyo was not surprised. After all, this matter had happened a long time ago. Moreover, this matter was related to the Kunlun Holy Land. Everyone was very wary of it, and did not dare to record it in the ancient books. Chapter 108. After that, Jun Moyo began to recount the story that had once shocked the entire Wushan continent. About 3,000 years ago, the strongest sacred ground of the human race, the Kunlun Sacred Ground, produced a genius girl named Chu Linglong. This girl was extremely talented. Within a few years, she had condensed her Yuan Dan and became a true disciple of the Kunlun Sacred Ground. At the same time, Chu Linglong had always been arrogant because of her talent. Her character was also extremely unyielding, so she had offended many people in the Kunlun Sacred Ground. After that, Chu Linglong was framed by others for no reason, and was beaten down to a lower cultivation level. After being treated so unfairly, Chu Linglong harbored resentment in her heart, and directly fled the Kunlun Sacred Ground. In fact, such trivial matters often happened in the Sacred Ground. As the top sacred ground of the human race, naturally, there were countless prodigies. At that time, the upper echelons of the sacred ground did not pay much attention to a mere Chu Linglong. After Chu Linglong betrayed the Kunlun Sacred Ground, no one knew where she had encountered such a miraculous encounter. After that, under everyone's shocked gaze, Chu Linglong continuously broke through her Yuan Dan, broke through her Tao tribulations, and condensed her heaven and earth Dharma form. All of this, the girl named Chu Linglong, did not even take 100 years. It was also from then on that Chu Linglong began her legendary life. She was extremely powerful and talented. She dominated her generation. After that, Chu Linglong began to madly retaliate against the Kunlun Sacred Ground. With her own strength, she directly killed the most outstanding disciples of that generation of the Kunlun Sacred Ground. Even the Kunlun Holy Son of that generation was no exception. Such a huge blow immediately forced the Kunlun Sacred Leader to personally kill Chu Linglong. However, Chu Linglong had already fully matured by then. With many secret techniques, she managed to escape from the Kunlun Sacred Leader's hands time and time again. From then on, no one could stop Chu Linglong's heaven-defying rise. Because of Chu Linglong's existence, the Kunlun Sacred Ground's position in the human race was shaken. As for how Chu Linglong was able to rise, no one knew. A few hundred years later, Chu Linglong personally revealed some of the secrets. It turned out that after Chu Linglong betrayed the Kunlun Holy Land, she had coincidentally obtained a supreme inheritance from the God realm. By relying on this inheritance, Chu Linglong had obtained the Supreme Emperor technique and supreme weapon. Only then had she completed her path of invincibility. What? When Jun Haoyan heard this, his expression suddenly became strange. Did he obtain a supreme inheritance from the God realm? At this moment, he finally understood why the Holy Lord of Langya had suddenly conferred the title of Holy Son on him. So, the Holy Lord of Langya thinks of me as the second Chu Linglong? This was too much of a coincidence. Jun Haoyan didn't know what to say. At the same time, he was also very curious. Was Chu Linglong telling the truth? Such a heaven-defying life was simply like cheating. At this moment, if someone said that Chu Linglong had the same system as him, he would believe it without hesitation. Then, Jun Haoyan seemed to have thought of something and asked Jun Moyo, "Sister, what's the relationship between Chu Linglong and the Linglong Holy Land?" Hearing this, Jun Moyo's face was solemn. She stared at Jun Haoyan and said, "The seventh holy land of the human race, the Linglong Holy Land, was founded by Chu Linglong. The seventh holy land was founded by that woman named Chu Linglong?" Hearing this, Jun Haoyan was shocked again. In his mind, a holy land was generally an existence that had been passed down for at least tens of thousands of years. Every holy land of the human race was established by the strongest in the world. Those strong people were at least at the supreme divine illusionary realm. Could it be that this Chu Linglong had broken through to the supreme divine illusionary realm? Impossible. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan quickly rejected the idea. The secret records of the Langya Holy Land were very clear that there were no divine illusionary realm experts in the Wushan continent. But all of this was too shocking. I know what you're thinking. The Linglong Holy Lord indeed did not become a supreme divine illusionary realm expert. Jun Moyo confirmed Jun Haoyan's thoughts. However, she had broken through to the immortal realm 2,000 years ago. Until now, no one knows how strong she is. Speaking of the Linglong Holy Lord, even Jun Moyo could not help but sigh. An immortal realm expert could live for at least 10,000 years. The Linglong Holy Lord was the only living founder of a holy land in the world. Moreover, the entire Linglong Holy Land was supported by the Linglong Holy Lord alone. She was equivalent to a holy land by herself. A true legendary woman. Didn't you say that every holy land has a supreme weapon? Didn't the Kunlun Holy Land use a supreme weapon back then? Jun Haoyan asked again. A supreme weapon was the most powerful weapon left behind by a supreme divine illusionary realm expert. When used to the extreme, it was equivalent to the reincarnation of a supreme divine illusionary realm expert. Chu Linglong was indeed very strong. She was shockingly talented. But it was impossible for her to withstand a supreme weapon, right? The Linglong Holy Land also has a supreme weapon and a supreme emperor technique. Jun Moyo said again, which made the latter even more shocked. Chu Linglong was not a great emperor. Not only did she rely on her own strength to create the seventh holy land of the human race, she also had a supreme weapon and a supreme emperor technique. It seemed that even the Holy Land with the weakest foundation was not simple. So the Holy Lord thinks of me as the second Chu Linglong. Jun Haoyan said. He finally understood everything. If it was really as the Holy Lord of Langya expected, Jun Haoyan would become the second Chu Linglong. That was very significant to the entire Langya Holy Land. Therefore, it was expected that he would be conferred the title of the Holy Son. I didn't expect it to be like this. Jun Haoyan said again. He was also thinking about how to explain why he suddenly became so strong. Since everyone thought that he had obtained the inheritance of the God realm, it couldn't be better. Haoyan, you don't have to explain this to me. It's all your luck. Obviously, Jun Moyo also thought so. In her eyes, even if Jun Haoyan could not become the second Chu Linglong, but no matter what, her brother would definitely be a big shot in the Wushan continent in the future. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan nodded his head as if he was serious. At the same time, after hearing Jun Moyo mention the Kunlun tribulation, Jun Haoyan also began to be vigilant. The Wushan continent was very big, and there were countless geniuses. Ziyang Holy Sun was just one of them. There were definitely others who were stronger than Ziyang Holy Sun. Although he already had a holy body, he couldn't let his guard down. This world was very big, and the Wushan continent was only one of the 3,000 major worlds under the God realm. There were too many amazing people in this world. The most important thing now is the conferring ceremony. Jun Moyo looked at Jun Haoyan with a serious expression. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan was stunned. Could there be an accident at the conferring ceremony? Seeing Jun Haoyan's puzzled expression, Jun Moyo had to explain again. It turned out that whether it was in the Langya Holy Land or in other holy lands, any ceremony to confer the title of Holy Son or Holy Daughter was extremely important. Chapter 109. The coronation ceremony of the Holy Son was extremely important in every holy land of the human race. After all, every Holy Son had a 50% chance of inheriting the position of the Holy Lord. Of course, the coronation ceremony of the Holy Son was not as simple as it seemed. Although the Holy Lord of Langya had interrupted the coronation of Jun Haoyan as the Holy Son of Langya, he was not the real Holy Son of Langya until he passed the coronation ceremony. This was also why no one went to pay their respects to the Holy Son, even though the Holy Lord of Langya had already announced that Jun Haoyan would be the Holy Son. During the coronation ceremony, Jun Haoyan had to go through many tests. Only by passing these tests would he be qualified to become the Holy Son. Tests. Upon hearing this, Jun Haoyan frowned. That's right. Before the coronation of the Holy Son, you have to pass these tests. Jun Moyo nodded and continued. There are 3 steps in the coronation ceremony. The first step is the Holy Lord's decree, which is to announce to the Holy Land. The second step is to accept the 3 tests of challenge, self-examination, and sacrifice to the heavens. After the first step is completed, the last step is to officially enshrine the Holy Son. Jun Moyo explained the steps of the coronation ceremony in detail. After hearing this, Jun Haoyan understood the coronation ceremony a little better. He also understood that the tests of the coronation ceremony were the 3 tests of the second step. Among them, the challenge meant that Jun Haoyan had to accept the challenges of the other true disciples in the Holy Land. As for the self-examination, the Grand Elder represented the ancestors of the Langya Holy Land to ask the 3 questions. The last step was the sacrifice to the heavens, earth, and the elders of the sect. It was also the most difficult part. This was because the sacrifice to the heavens had to resonate with the ancestors of the Holy Land. This required a good performance in the self-examination test. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been recognized by the ancestors of the Holy Land. In other words, my ancestors will only acknowledge me if I perform well in the Heart Inquisition? Jun Haoyan said helplessly. He had thought that becoming the Holy Son would only require a single word from the Holy Leader. He had not expected it to be so complicated. Jun Moyo nodded and looked at Jun Haoyan worriedly. The challenge is the most dangerous one. Originally, the position of the second Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land had been vacant. Many powerful true disciples had their eyes on the position of the Holy Son, especially those powerful Heavenly Dipper true disciples. Each and every one of them is incomparably powerful. During the crowning ceremony, they will definitely challenge you. True legacy of Big Dipper. In the Langya Holy Son, apart from the Langya Holy Son, the Celestial Dipper true disciple was the strongest among the younger generation. To obtain the title of Celestial Dipper true disciple, one's strength had to be at least LV8 Yuan Dan realm. They were much stronger than Xingshan. Jun Haoyan was only at LV1 Yuan Dan realm. Jun Moyo could not help but worry about him fighting against a LV8 Yuan Dan realm. It seems that this crowning ceremony will not be so boring. Jun Haoyan did not flinch at all, and finally muttered to himself. He had thought that with the Holy Lord of Langya's words, he would definitely become the Holy Son of Langya. He had not expected that there would be so many secrets in this crowning ceremony. If he could successfully pass these tests, he would naturally become the Holy Son. But if he could not pass, he would be a laughingstock. Thinking of the challenges he would face from countless geniuses, Jun Haoyan's eyes flashed with a hint of fighting spirit. How could a mere test of the Holy Sun stump him? He was determined to become the Holy Sun. After that, Jun Haoyan chose to go into seclusion to deal with the upcoming crowning ceremony. Seeing this, Jun Moyo did not disturb him. Instead, he supported him wholeheartedly. At this moment, she had already regarded Jun Haoyan as her pride. In the 100,000 mountains of the Wushan continent, the 100,000 mountains was the gathering place of the demon clan. All the demon clans in the entire Wushan continent gathered here. Of course, other than the Wushan continent, there were also demon clans from the other 3,000 small worlds. In the depths of the 100,000 mountains, there was an unparalleled peak that pierced into the sky. An extremely dense demon aura permeated the air. There were many large halls here. Each of them was extremely tall, at least a few hundred feet high. At this moment, in the center of these halls, a handsome man in a purple robe and purple hair sat cross-legged. Behind the purple-haired man, a huge purple sun floated. The purple sun spun continuously, and countless violet lights circulated around the purple-haired man. Invisibly, an extremely terrifying aura emanated from the purple-haired man. The purple light around him suddenly became incomparably dazzling, and the man suddenly looked like a purple sun. In an instant, the purple-haired man suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, an extremely dense murderous aura swept out in all directions. Suddenly, the clouds in the void shattered, and even the entire peak trembled slightly. "Brother Wang, why are you so angry?" The purple-haired man's murderous aura had obviously alarmed the others in the peak. Immediately, a voice came from outside the hall. Hearing this voice, the purple-haired man immediately withdrew his murderous aura. This purple-haired man was the Xiang Holy Son of the Langya Holy Ground, Wang Su. The person who had just spoken was already standing at the entrance of the hall. He was dressed in golden armor and had a huge body. He looked extremely mighty. In particular, the aura emanating from the newcomer was actually a monstrous demonic aura. Upon closer inspection, the man's eyes were actually golden, and there were 2 vertical horns on his head. He was filled with a domineering aura. This man was the son of the giant bird demon king of the demon race, Prince Jiao. The second holy son of the Langya Holy Ground is about to be born. At this moment, the Xiang Holy Son had already calmed down. His voice was very calm. "Oh, doesn't that mean Brother Wang has another strong opponent?" At this moment, another voice came from the entrance of the hall. A man in green robes walked in. This man in green robes looked like a scholar. Unlike the terrifying aura emanating from the Xiang Holy Son and Prince Jiao, he looked like an ordinary person. However, his casual attitude towards the Xiang Holy Son and Prince Jiao was enough to show that he was not an ordinary person. This man was a powerful figure of the demon race, the son of the nine-tailed fox king, and a prodigy of the demon race. Strong opponent? Not necessarily. Hearing this, the Xiang Holy Son's face turned cold. Then, he told them everything he knew. Although his real body was not in the Langya Holy Ground, he knew everything that happened in the Langya Holy Ground. What? A mere stage 1 Yuan Dan cultivator is qualified to be the Holy Son? Hearing Xiang Holy Son's words, Prince Jiao laughed disdainfully. "Brother Jiao, don't just look at his cultivation. That man has a sacred body. He is definitely qualified to be the Holy Son." The Fox Prince spoke slowly as a strange glint flashed across his demonic eyes. There was a sacred body in the human race. This was big news for the demon race. So what if he has a sacred body? So what if he is talented? As long as he is dead, he is nothing. Hearing this, Prince Jiao said in a domineering tone, "Brother Wang, if you can't kill him, I can kill him for you." Chapter 110. There's no need for Brother Jiao to do anything. He's only a first-tier Yuan Dan cultivator. It's hard to say if he can even pass the ceremony. Besides, I'm about to return to the Holy Land. Xiang Holy Son said flatly. He didn't want Prince Jiao to do anything. Jun Haoyan was a human, and even had a saintly physique. If he died at the hands of demons, and if it was found out that it was related to him, then his title as the Langya Holy Son would come to an end. In the worst case, he would be labeled a traitor to the human race. Furthermore, Jun Haoyan had destroyed his clone, which was an affront to him. He planned to settle this score with him personally. That's right. He's just a Yuan Dan cultivator. Brother Wang can kill him with a wave of his hand when he returns. Prince Jiao said arrogantly. From the beginning to the end, he had never taken Jun Haoyan seriously. As the only son of Demon King Jiao, Prince Jiao had been extremely conceited since he was young. Coupled with his unparalleled talent, he had an insufferably arrogant personality. Idiot! When the Fox Prince saw the Flood Dragon Prince's insufferably arrogant attitude, he thought to himself, Langya Holy Land Mo Yushan Peak. Jun Haoyan sat cross-legged in a corner of the main hall. After half a day, Jun Haoyan had finally calmed down the surging energy in his body, and was now in peak condition. At this moment, he opened his eyes slightly, which were filled with a trace of golden light. At this rate, I'll be able to complete the first stage of the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth when I reach the third tier of Yuan Dan. Jun Haoyan murmured to himself as he felt the power in his body increase. Completing the first stage of the strength of the hell-crushing god mammoth required the awakening of 84,000 mammoth cells. He wasn't far from that stage. When that time came, his strength would soar once again. However, the most important thing right now was to find a way to pass the ceremony. The first step had been completed. The next two steps were the most important. In the challenge test, there would definitely be Heavenly Dipper true disciples who would jump out and attack him. Although Jun Haoyan's current strength was sufficient to easily annihilate a formidable existence at the 6th or even 7th level of the martial arts stage, Jun Haoyan's current strength was sufficient to easily annihilate Yuan Dan. However, the true disciples of the Heavenly Dipper array were at least at the 8th stage of Yuan Dan realm. Whether it was true essence or battle prowess, it could be said to be incomparably terrifying. Moreover, as the true disciples of the Heavenly Stars array in the Langya sacred ground, almost all of them had a Dharma artifact. Magic artifacts contain the power of laws. Compared to treasured artifacts, magic artifacts were much stronger. 100 supreme-grade artifacts were no match for a single low-grade artifact. A suitable Dharma artifact could increase a martial artist's strength by several times. Furthermore, there were all kinds of magical tools that had strange powers. If Jun Haoyan was not prepared for it, it was very likely that he would be hit by it. Therefore, before the crowning ceremony, not only did he need to increase his strength, but he also needed to find a way to resist the various magic tools. His goal was not simply to defeat all the challengers. What he wanted was to crush them, crush all the challengers. Only in this way could he establish his prestige. In order to achieve this step, he needed to have unparalleled and overwhelming strength. However, there were only 2 days left until the crowning ceremony. Ding! Sign-in time has been refreshed. Host, would you like to sign in? At this moment, the system's notification sounded in Jun Haoyan's head again. Sign in. Hearing the notification, Jun Haoyan's face lit up with joy, and then he answered without hesitation. Ding! Congratulations to the host for signing in successfully. You have received the Sunshot Divine Bow. Sunshot Divine Bow. Hearing the system's notification, Jun Haoyan was stunned at first, but then a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He had a divine body, and his physical body was as strong as a treasured artifact. It could be said that even a supreme-grade treasured artifact could not damage his physical body. Therefore, he did not have to worry about his defense and physical body at all, and he did not need any defensive treasured artifacts. However, the Sunshot Divine Bow was different. With the power of the Sunshot Divine Bow, it was comparable to a supreme-grade magic artifact, and it was a supreme-grade magic artifact that focused on offense. Jun Haoyan had several Supreme Emperor techniques, and could be said to be unparalleled in offense. However, if he had the support of the Sunshot Divine Bow, it would be even more incredible. This Divine Bow possessed terrifying power. The more power that was injected into it, the more terrifying the effect would be. In ancient legends, there was once a mighty figure who used this bow to shoot down the sun in the sky. This was enough to show how powerful this divine bow was. If Jun Haoyan used his strength to activate it, who knew how terrifying it would be? Of course, with Jun Haoyan's current strength, it would be an exaggeration to say that he could shoot down the sun. but he could definitely kill a 10th stage Yuandan cultivator. Perhaps it would not be a problem for him to kill an Imperial Dao realm expert. With this divine bow, Jun Haoyan's strength would increase by several levels. It would be a piece of cake for him to face those heavenly dipper true disciples who came to challenge him. How about a first stage Yuandan cultivator? I, the Holy Sun, can still sweep through all of them. With confidence, Jun Haoyan no longer called himself the Holy Sun. Then without any hesitation, Jun Haoyan took out the Sunshot Divine Bow. There were all kinds of flowers, birds, fish, and insects engraved on the bow, as well as some bloodthirsty ancient beasts. The Sunshot Divine Bow was black, but it was not an ordinary black. It was the kind of black that would appear after being watered by endless blood. There was a kind of absolute killing intent. This kind of killing intent could completely lock onto a target. As long as the target was targeted, even if it was 10,000 kilometers away, it could be killed with a single arrow. What a good bow! Seeing this, Jun Haoyan couldn't help but sigh. Although his own cultivation base did not increase, this godly bow was enough. Moreover, this bow didn't need to be refined. It was already bound to Jun Haoyan when he obtained it. In other words, even if someone else obtained this bow, they would be inferior to an ordinary bow unless they had Jun Haoyan's will. Haoyan, are you ready? The crowning ceremony is about to begin. Just as Jun Haoyan was sighing, Jun Moyo's voice came from outside. I'm coming out now. Hearing her voice, Jun Haoyan spoke slowly. Then he put the Sunshot Divine Bow into his storage ring and walked out. Jun Moyo changed into a blue dress. Her skin was smooth, and her long hair was draped over her shoulders. She was incomparably beautiful. Ever since he came to this world, Jun Moyo was the most beautiful woman Jun Haoyan had ever seen. Even the incomparably beautiful Long Ziyue couldn't compare to Jun Moyo. How are your preparations? Jun Moyo walked to Jun Haoyan's side and helped him tidy up his clothes with her slender fingers. This action might seem intimate to outsiders, but Jun Moyo didn't think much of it. Don't worry, sister. No one can snatch the position of the Holy Sun from me, Jun Haoyan said calmly. He was indescribably domineering and confident. That's good. Let's go. Hearing this, Jun Moyo's eyes flashed with joy. Ever since she regarded Jun Haoyan as the inheritor of the divine realm, Jun Moyo was full of confidence in Jun Haoyan's words. Then, the two turned into two streams of light and left Mou Divine Peak. Langia Sacred Ground, Central Square. There was a sea of people here, and it was a hubbub of voices. All the outer, inner core, and true disciples of the entire Langia Sacred Ground had arrived. There were hundreds of thousands of disciples gathered around the square, and they were all dressed in various costumes. Chapter 111. At this moment, those standing outside the central square were naturally the inner and outer disciples. Near the periphery of the square, there were a few rows of spectator stands prepared for the core disciples. As for the space above, there were many circular jade platforms floating in the air. There was a figure standing on each jade platform, each of them emitting a terrifying aura. Upon closer inspection, these people were actually the true disciples of the Langia Sacred Ground. Above the jade platforms, among the clouds, there were praying mats surrounded by rainbow-colored clouds. The 7 palace elders and palace masters sat cross-legged on top. On the east side of the square, there were dozens of void seats arranged neatly. Many withered old men were seated among them. They were the grand elders of the Langia Sacred Ground. At the center of the dozens of empty seats, there was a huge golden throne. Rays of golden light were emitted from the throne. The figure of the Holy Lord of Langia, Tao Xian, was faintly discernible as he sat cross-legged on it. In addition, at the entrance of the square, there were 9 huge statues erected. There were men and women among the statues. Some were carrying swords, some were holding sabers, and some were holding axes. Each statue was over 100 zhang tall, and they were emitting a terrifying aura. All the disciples of the Langia, including the elders and palace masters, looked at these statues with a trace of respect. These statues were of the ancestors of the Langia Sacred Ground, who had made great contributions to the Langia Sacred Ground over hundreds of thousands of years. In the center of the 9 statues was a golden statue that was hundreds of feet tall. This statue was of the founder of the Langya sacred ground, the Lord of Langya. The Lord of Langya. These statues symbolized the power of the Langya sacred ground. It was vast and boundless, and there were many powerful people. Soon, the disciples of the Langya sacred ground gathered in the square and took their positions, waiting for the arrival of the main character, Junhaotian. It's almost time. Why isn't Junhaotian here yet? Don't worry. Junhaotian won't be absent from such an important occasion. This conferring ceremony is probably going to end in failure. Those Heavenly Dipper true disciples will definitely challenge Junhaotian. It's no wonder. Those senior brothers in the celestial star array have been fighting for the Holy Sun's position for so many years. Now that it's going to be taken away by someone else, of course they're unhappy. Although Junhaotian has a divine body, with his cultivation of LV1 Yuan Dan, I'm afraid he has no hope of passing the crowning ceremony. Look, he's here. Suddenly a disciple spoke. Immediately, countless eyes looked towards the entrance. At the entrance of the square, a ray of blue light shot out at an extremely fast speed. It only took a moment for it to reach the jade platform in the void. It was none other than Jun Moyo. Jun Moyo's eyes were very calm as he stood on the jade platform. His body was surrounded by a cold aura, as if he was trying to keep everyone at a distance. In front of outsiders, Jun Moyo had always displayed a cold demeanor. Strangers did not want to get close to him, and no one could touch him. At this moment, Langya's Holy Lord Dao Xian and the other supreme elders, who were seated on the void golden throne, looked at the same spot. The 7 palace masters and elders also looked at the same place. Countless disciples of the Holy Land of Langya also looked at the same place. There a ray of golden divine light flashed. Junhaotian's figure slowly appeared in the center of the square. At this moment he stood alone. His robe was whiter than snow, and his hands were behind his back. His black hair was like a waterfall, and his eyebrows were like swords. He had an indescribable aura about him. Just like that, Junhaotian walked out of the void. Finally, he stood in the center of the square and bowed. Greetings, Holy Lord. Greetings, Supreme Elders, Palace Masters and Elders. Facing Tao Xian and the Supreme Elders, Junhaotian was calm and composed. There was no sign of nervousness. On the void golden throne, the Holy Lord of Langya slowly stood up. An unparalleled pressure swept through the entire Holy Land. His voice was like a hammer of heaven and earth, as brilliant as the sun. I hereby announce that the crowning ceremony has officially begun. The Holy Lord of Langya's words instantly spread throughout the Langya Holy Land. The clouds in the void bloomed with thousands of colorful rays of light. It was gorgeous and eye-catching. Decrees descended from the void one after another. For a moment, the entire world became incomparably bright. In the center of the square, the 9 statues were illuminated by the light, as if they were about to come to life. The Holy Lord of Langya's decree resonated with heaven and earth. The decrees in the void surged with countless rays of light, and turned into a peerless picture scroll. This picture scroll depicted mountains, rivers, and stars. It was a wonder of heaven and earth. It floated in the void just like that. The crowning ceremony's test would be carried out on this picture scroll. Enter. The Holy Lord of Langya Tao Xian said. Junhaotian nodded and stepped out onto the picture scroll. Then the Holy Lord took his seat. A supreme elder walked out and faced all the disciples of the Langya Holy Land. The first test begins. This was the second stage of becoming the Holy Sun. There were 3 major tests. The first test was naturally for those disciples who did not accept Junhaotian as the Holy Sun to challenge him. Once Junhaotian was defeated, the crowning ceremony would end in failure, and Junhaotian would have no chance of inheriting the position of the Holy Sun in the future. As for the disciples who defeated Junhaotian, there was a great chance that they would be crowned as the Holy Sun by the Holy Lord again. Therefore, the crowning ceremony this time attracted everyone's attention, especially those powerful Heavenly Dipper true disciples who had acknowledged that they would take over the position of Holy Sun. Therefore, each of them was full of energy. If they defeated Junhaotian this time, the position of the Holy Sun that they yearned for day and night would fall on their heads. At this moment, Jun Haoyan stood on the picture scroll with his eyes closed, waiting for someone to challenge him. Ji Wuming request to battle. After a few breaths, a voice sounded from the jade platform in the void. Then, a figure descended from the jade platform. His aura was strong, and the shadow of the Yuan Dan shone brightly above his head. Ji Wuming, a true disciple of the Big Dipper of the Langya Holy Land, ranked 21st on the Langya list. The Langya list was the exclusive ranking of the true disciples of the Big Dipper array in the Langya Holy Land. Those who could be on the list were all the best among the true disciples of the Big Dipper array. Ji Wuming, ranked 21st, had the cultivation of the peak level 8 Yuan Dan. Jun Haoyan opened his eyes and looked at the person who came, and the information of the other party appeared in his mind. These were the information that Jun Moyo had given him on the way here. Approved. The Supreme Elder glanced at Ji Wuming and said indifferently, "Don't worry." As soon as the Grand Supreme Elder finished speaking, Ji Wuming walked directly to the picture scroll. He looked at Jun Haoyan, his eyes bursting with intense battle intent as he stood tall and straight. Just by standing there, he was like a stone pillar. You have the saint physique, and are qualified to be the Holy Son. However, you are too weak now. Ji Wuming looked at Jun Haoyan in front of him. He didn't look down on him. He just felt that Jun Haoyan was really too weak now. If such strength became the Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land, he wouldn't accept it at all. Let's fight, Jun Haoyan said painfully. He wasn't moved by Ji Wuming's terrifying cultivation at all. Alright, based on your attitude, even if you lose, I'll respect you, Ji Wuming said with a smile. Around him, black divine spears appeared one after another and lined up around him. A total of 18 black divine spears formed a powerful square formation. Every single divine spear emitted an extremely dense murderous aura. It's a low-grade magic artifact, the 18 evil breaking ghost spears. This magic artifact is specially used to attack. Senior Brother Ji once used it to kill an Emperor Realm independent cultivator. How terrifying. Senior Brother Ji actually used his full strength from the beginning. A disciple exclaimed as he recognized the origin of the 18 divine spears. The fact that Ji Wuming had once killed an Emperor Realm independent cultivator was enough to show how powerful and terrifying he was. Chapter 112. When Ji Wuming revealed his strength, almost everyone's eyes were on him. However, the other Heavenly Dipper true disciples looked at Jun Haoyan. They wanted to see how the so-called Holy Son would break out of this situation. Facing Ji Wuming, who was powerful and had an unparalleled Dharma artifact, how could Jun Haoyan defeat him? Boom! Facing the power of Ji Wuming's Dharma artifact, Jun Haoyan's expression did not change at all. In the next moment, a golden aura rose from Jun Haoyan's body. The vast power of the aura turned into a great golden winged eagle and condensed into an aura furnace. A vast amount of true essence was steaming, causing a series of roars. At that moment, Jun Haoyan unleashed the full power of his divine body, revealing his invincible body. Even with the obstruction of the isolation array in the scroll, the Langya sacred ground disciples outside still felt a shocking pressure. Just like the demon clan, a high-level bloodline had a natural suppression over a low-level bloodline. The divine body had a natural suppression over those who did not have an extraordinary physique, or a lower level than the divine body. Jun Haoyan stood there calmly, and did not even take out a weapon. Boom! In the next moment, Ji Wuming made his move. Streams of terrifying vital essence gushed out of his body, and blocked the power of the divine body. Then, with a thought, the 18 evil slaying ghost spears around him suddenly shot toward Jun Haoyan. As the 18 evil slaying ghost spears cut through the space, the whole world seemed to be roaring. 18 bright streams of light formed an abstruse and mysterious origin array in the void. The flickering cold light on the ghost spear was daunting to look at. At that moment, Jun Haoyan slowly formed a fist seal. A boundless sea of blood appeared behind him, as if the gates of hell had opened. 12 demon gods walked out and supported Jun Haoyan's body. It was still the celestial fiend celestial arts. What's the meaning of this? He wants to use his physical body to resist the Dharma artifact? This is too crazy. Even if the saintly body has an unparalleled physical body, I'm afraid it can't withstand the attack of a celestial artifact. Let's wait and see. If he can kill Sing Shan, this Jun Haoyan won't be so simple. Seeing that Jun Haoyan didn't use any magic tools and only had a pair of fists, someone immediately cried out in alarm. Boom! In the next moment, Jun Haoyan punched out 12 times at the 18 evil-destroying ghost spears. Every punch could turn mountains and rivers into basins. That vast power was like a river bursting its banks, flowing endlessly. The 18 ghost spears continued to rumble under this vigorous true essence, unable to move forward. In the end, they were directly blasted back. Seeing this, Ji Wuming's eyelids twitched. The expressions of the true disciples of Langia, who were watching from the side, also changed slightly. He was only at LV1 Yuandan realm, but he could explode with such power. No wonder he had a saintly body. With such vigorous true essence, even 100 ordinary LV1 Yuandan realm cultivators couldn't compare with Jun Haoyan. However, this alone was not enough to defeat Ji Wuming. How could a true disciple of the heavenly spirit array be defeated so easily? Demons and monsters, ghost spears, evil destroying go. In the next moment, Ji Wuming crazily circulated his true essence and poured it into the 18 spears. With the influx of true essence, the spears suddenly shone with a bloody light. In an instant they crazily expanded. After a few breaths, they had become thousands of feet long. Every spear seemed to be able to pierce through the sky. Seeing this, Jun Haoyan's expression didn't change. He didn't even use his trump card. He only used the Dutian demon god technique. In the next moment, the 12 demon gods walked out again. The power of the demon gods was all added to Jun Haoyan's right fist. However, the power of the 12 demon gods was all concentrated on his right fist. Boom! Then Jun Haoyan slowly waved his fist. The force was so strong that it made the void explode. This punch made the true disciple of the heavenly spirit array turn pale. Rumble! With one punch, the mountains, rivers in the painting turned into ashes and disappeared. In front of Jun Haoyan, the 18 spears flew out, as if they had been hit by a heavy blow. Ji Wuming's expression changed. He took out the dazzling Yuan Dan in his body and puffed out clouds of smoke. He wanted to block this attack with all his strength. However, in the next moment, Jun Haoyan threw another punch. Boom! It was like a punch that could destroy the world. Ji Wuming's Yuan Dan trembled under this aura. The 18 ghost spears lost their divinity under this attack and fell to the side. Just as Ji Wuming was about to attack again, a figure rose from the ground and stood in front of him. It was as if the heavenly emperor had descended. You've lost! In front of Ji Wuming, Jun Haoyan stood with his hands behind his back. His aura was unparalleled. At this moment, he had restrained his aura and did not seem to be a threat. However, in front of Jun Haoyan, Ji Wuming was trembling all over. He could clearly feel the terrifying power from Jun Haoyan's body. Although it had been restrained, it was still hair-raising. He glanced at the scattered Dharma artifacts and his primordial core that was flickering. Ji Wuming knew that he had lost. Even if he still had the strength to fight, he did not dare to do it. If Jun Haoyan had not been merciful, his body would have been shattered. After taking a deep breath, Jun Haoyan stood up slowly. I've lost. Heavy words came out of Ji Wuming's mouth. At this moment, Ji Wuming was convinced. Jun Haoyan, with a cultivation of Yuan Dan level 1, was able to suppress him so easily. This was a truly terrifying heaven's chosen. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan nodded calmly. His expression did not change at all. It was as if defeating Ji Wuming was nothing. Everyone who saw this scene was shaken to the core. True disciple of the Big Dipper sect was holding a Dharma artifact. He was defeated so easily by Jun Haoyan, and in a crushing manner. Wasn't Jun Haoyan only at Yuan Dan level 1? Where did such a vigorous true essence come from? Everyone was very confused. After Ji Wuming left the painting, the Supreme Elder looked at the true disciple of the Big Dipper sect again. Tuobayu requests to fight. In the next moment, another figure walked out. The moment this person walked out, his entire body was filled with explosive muscles, attracting the gazes of everyone present. His body was 8 feet tall, and his skin was bronze in color. He had a wild aura about him. He stood there like an ancient giant beast. His heart was beating like thunder. Tuobayu, true disciple of the Big Dipper sect of the Langya sacred ground, ranked on the Langya ranking third. Seeing the newcomer, Jun Haoyan's expression did not change. His opponent's information quickly flashed through his mind. This person did not have any tools to help him. In terms of true essence, he was only on par with the Earth Fiend true disciple. However, he had an incomparably terrifying aspect. That was his physical body. Legend had it that Tuobayu had refined his own body like a Dharma artifact. Although he did not have a tool, he could use his physical body to exert the same strength as a tool. Approved. The Supreme Elder looked at Jiang Chen and approved the challenge. In the next moment, Tuobayu appeared on the painting. His eyes quietly stared at Jiang Chen. You have defeated Ji Wuming. You are qualified to be my opponent. Tuobayu spoke. His voice was like the sound of a large bell. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to breathe with just the pressure of his physical body. Chapter 113. Tuobayu's physical body was comparable to a Dharma artifact, but Jun Haoyan had a divine body, so he was naturally not inferior. Therefore, Jun Haoyan was not afraid of Tuobayu's beast-like physique. He said slowly, "Let's begin." As soon as Jun Haoyan finished speaking, the painting in the void suddenly emitted a divine light and sealed the entire void of the painting. At the same time, Tuobayu stepped on the painting, and a monstrous blood chi surged out of his body. This painting was obviously extraordinary. It seemed to contain an independent world with mountains and rivers. It was very realistic. After Tuobayu stepped out, a huge mountain in the world of the painting was directly crushed and turned into powder. In the next moment, Tuobayu's body flashed and directly appeared in front of Jun Haoyan. Boom! Without any warning, Tuobayu directly punched Jun Haoyan with a terrifying and ferocious aura. He was like a crazy ancient beast. In terms of physical strength, Tuobayu could be said to be the strongest person Jun Haoyan had ever seen. Tuobayu was obviously the kind of ascetic who was obsessed with refining his body. With an unparalleled physical body, he could dominate the world. Since you are so confident in your physical body, I will defeat you in the field that you are best at. Seeing that Tuobayu intended to compete with his physical body, Jun Haoyan sneered. Then, without any hesitation, Jun Haoyan punched out with his right fist. He also did not use any true core. Rumble. In the next moment, the two shocking fist forces collided and exploded with a monstrous power. Just the impact of the collision with their physical bodies had directly shattered the mountains and rivers within a radius of 1,000 miles in the world of the painting. However, the world of the painting was obviously not ordinary. Soon, the places that were destroyed by the two of them recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Jun Haoyan did not care about the changes in the world of the painting. He punched again in the direction of Tuobayu. Rumble. With every punch that Jun Haoyan threw out, it was as if thunder was exploding and the heavens and earth were roaring. Ha ha, great. As the two of them punched each other, Tuobayu's face turned red. He was extremely satisfied. In the entire sacred land of the human tribe, there were very few people who could fight with him purely using their physical bodies. In the square, the crowd was in disbelief as they watched the battle between the two in the painting. This Jun Haoyan is actually using his physical body to fight against senior brother Tuoba. That's terrifying. Senior's physical body is comparable to a Dharma artifact. No, brother is being suppressed. Suddenly, someone cried out in surprise, immediately attracting everyone's attention. In the world of the painting, Jun Haoyan had 12 archfiends above his head. He had transformed into an invincible archfiend and was punching at Tuobayu one after another. Jun Haoyan already had a sacred body, and his physical body was unparalleled. With the help of the Dutian archfiend technique, he was even more horrifying. With every punch that he threw out, it was as if he was going to overturn the mountains in the painting. As the two of them fought, Tuobayu became more and more surprised and horrified. He could feel that his bronze-colored physical body was turning red under Jun Haoyan's continuous attacks. He could feel the pain as well. That meant that each of Jun Haoyan's punches had exceeded the limits of his physical body. How is this possible? Tuobayu could not believe it. This was the physical body that he was most proud of. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Tuobayu was still in shock, Jun Haoyan swung his fists. There was a roar that sounded like thunder. These punches landed on Tuobayu's body without missing a beat. Puffed. Finally, Tuobayu could not take it anymore. He was sent flying for hundreds of miles and crashed through dozens of mountains. That was the end of their heated battle. At that moment, Tuobayu was lying on the ground. His physical body was cracked and blood was oozing out. He struggled to get up and looked at Jun Haoyan in the sky. I, Tuobayu, am willing to honor you as the Holy Sun. Tuobayu said with utmost sincerity. Tuobayu was a man of emotions. Naturally, he was convinced that Jun Haoyan had won him over with his strength in the area that he was best at. Then, Tuobayu pushed his exhausted body and left the world of the painting. This scene caused the surrounding disciples to sigh. After defeating Tuobayu, Jun Haoyan still looked calm and stood on the painting. After Tuobayu left the stage, the crowd witnessed Jun Haoyan's strength. For a moment, no one dared to challenge him. Even the Heavenly Dipper direct disciple who was ranked 13th had failed. There was no need for the 13th disciple to challenge him in the future. I, Bailey Schwanza, would like to challenge you. After a moment, a cold voice was heard. When the crowd looked at that person, there were countless exclamations. When they saw that person, even some of the hall masters' eyes lit up. Jun Moyo, on the other hand, looked worried. On the jade platform, a man in black with a sword on his back slowly stood up. There was no surge of true core energy in that man's body, nor was there any strong blood chi. There was only a horrifying sword intent that could destroy the heavens and earth. The man just stood there quietly, like a divine sword that soared through the sky. He could overturn the sea, slay demons, destroy evil and kill gods. Seeing the sword intent emitted from that man, Jun Haoyan's eyes turned serious. This man was not simple. Bailey Schwanza, Yuandan Peak Level 10. Direct disciple of Heavenly Dipper ranked 3rd. In Jun Haoyan's mind, information about that person quickly appeared. In the Langya sacred ground, the Heavenly Dipper direct disciples, who were ranked in the top 10 of the Langya list, were almost all at Yuandan Level 10. Therefore, those who could sit firmly in the top 10 were almost all abnormally strong in the Yuandan realm. They were more than 10 times stronger than those in the same realm. Bailey Schwanza was ranked 3rd among the Heavenly Dipper direct disciples. One could imagine how strong he was. When Bailey Schwanza stood up, the entire square was suddenly filled with a shocking sword intent. This was a truly terrifying enemy, and the most popular person to compete for the second Holy Sun. Compared to Tuobayu and Ji Wuming, Bailey Schwanza's strength was obviously much stronger. In a flash, Bailey Schwanza directly appeared on the scroll, standing opposite of Jun Haoyan. Bailey Schwanza's entire being was like a sword. Just standing in front of Jun Haoyan was enough to send chills down his spine. In the world of the scroll, Bailey Schwanza carried the ancient sword on his back and slowly walked to Jun Haoyan step by step. The ancient sword on his back roared softly, as if it was about to be unsheathed. An enormous and dense sword intent caused the air in the entire world to solidify. Jun Haoyan knew that this was an opponent worthy of his true strength. On the other side, on the jade platform of the Heavenly Dipper direct disciples, 2 men, one in black and one in white, stood together. Even when they saw Bailey Schwanza walk out, they were not surprised. These 2 people, named Feng Xiaoyao and Du Gabo, were the second and first among the Heavenly Dipper direct disciples in Langya Holy Land. I didn't expect Bailey Schwanza to make a move so early. This is not like his character. Feng Xiaoyao had a smile on his face and looked very relaxed. That's good, it saves time. Du Gabo said indifferently as he stared ahead. The first 3 Heavenly Dipper direct disciples were almost the same in terms of cultivation, but there were some differences in strength. However, this difference would not be too big. It was nothing more than a matter of a trump card. Therefore, Bailey Schwanza made a move at this time to help them test how strong Jun Haoyan was. This was because they could see that Jun Haoyan had not used his true strength until now. This made the 2 of them a little curious about what other trump cards Jun Haoyan was hiding. If Bailey Schwanza also loses, then in the whole Langya Holy Land, only the 2 of us can stop this person. Du Gabo nodded. Although Bailey Schwanza was ranked third, his incomparably sharp sword intent made even them retreat. Bailey Schwanza's swordsmanship is unparalleled, and his sword intent is unparalleled. Even if Jun Haoyan is a sage body, I'm afraid he can't withstand it. I have a premonition that this coronation ceremony should be over. Dugabo's tone revealed a sense of loneliness. Standing in the first position of the Heavenly Dipper direct disciples, he had been sitting in it for decades. Chapter 114. At this moment, Jun Haoyan and Bailey Schwanza were facing each other in the scroll world. "You're quite strong," Bailey Schwanza said slowly as he looked at Jun Haoyan. There was a hint of recognition in his tone of voice for Jun Haoyan's strength. "Unfortunately, your crowning ceremony will end in failure today." Bailey Schwanza changed his tone and spoke again. His tone was very calm, as if he was stating a fact. As a swordsman, Bailey Schwanza believed that as long as he had the sword in his hand, he could cut through all obstacles. "Oh, my thoughts are exactly the opposite of yours. I'm definitely going to be the Holy Son." The corner of Jun Haoyan's mouth curled into a faint smile as he spoke slowly. He was dressed in white and looked calm. Although he had fought 2 battles in a row, Jun Haoyan's vital essence was still very strong. Every giant elephant seed in his body was like a dantian, and the vital essence in his body was like a river endless. "Let's begin." At this moment the great elder spoke. Then, the abstruse and mysterious light flowed on the scroll world, and the array slowly formed. Clang! The moment the array formed, Bailey Schwanza made his move. An incomparably powerful and sharp sword intent burst out from his body. Behind Bailey Schwanza, an ancient black sword that exuded an endless murderous aura was slowly unsheathed. Clang, clang, clang. Countless sword cries burst forth, as tens of thousands of sword lights shot over. Countless mountains, rivers, and trees in the scroll world were all cut in half. Even the disciples of the Langya sacred ground outside were trembling. Just the aura of the ancient black sword was enough to make them feel like they were going to be obliterated. This sword is called Moxie, a middle-grade magic weapon. Holding the ancient black sword, Bailey Schwanza's eyes flashed with gentleness, and then his tone was cold. As soon as Bailey Schwanza finished speaking, he waved the Moxie sword in his hand. An extremely sharp sword light shot out from the Moxie sword. This sword strike was as powerful as a bolt of lightning, and the sword chi was as cold as the moon, ghastly and cold. This sword strike was as austere as winter, sucking away all the cold air between heaven and earth. The sword light tore through the space, instantly setting off a wave of vital chi, causing the space to collapse. This sword strike transformed into a boundless hell. Everything within a radius of 1,000 miles was minced to death. It was as if nothing could stop Bailey Schwanza's terrifying sword. The sword light, which was as vast as thunder, was terrifyingly sharp, and directly swept towards Jun Haoyan's body. Outside the scroll world, everyone was shocked when they saw Bailey Schwanza's sword. Senior brother Bailey is a genius in sword Dao, and he also has the Moxie sword. Jun Haoyan will definitely lose this battle. Even an Imperial Dao realm expert wouldn't dare to take such a terrifying sword intent head-on. Senior brother Bailey is worthy of being ranked third on the Langya rankings. His strength is truly shocking. When they saw this scene, the spectating disciples whispered and cried out in surprise. The crowning ceremony this time had truly broadened their horizons. Normally, they wouldn't be able to see such a battle between experts. At this moment, sword chi and sword intent raged within the scroll world. Even the Supreme Elder and the Holy Lord Tao Xian couldn't help but look over at the battle between Jun Haoyan and Bailey Schwanza. The true battle had just begun. Facing Bailey Schwanza's terrifying sword strike, Jun Haoyan didn't hesitate at all, and directly activated the strength of the hell-crushing divine elephant. In the next moment, countless ancient mammoth phantoms appeared, and an extremely terrifying suppressive force surged out, enveloping Jun Haoyan and blocking Bailey Schwanza's terrifying sword intent. At the same time, the 12 demon gods stood behind Jun Haoyan, and an endless sea of blood slowly rotated. The main blood and chi furnace formed by the golden-winged rock condor rumbled, and golden blood and chi surged. At this moment, Jun Haoyan transformed into the god of war once again. Facing the sword, He formed a supreme fist seal and smashed it down. Boom! The endless mountains and rivers in the scroll world exploded and turned into dust, and the azura hell formed by the endless sword light disappeared. Clang! However, at this moment Bailey Schwanza moved. He held the Moxie sword and slashed out 1,000 times in a breath's time. Clang! 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 Terrifying sword intent and sword light slashed down at Jun Haotian. Even the golden blood and chi around Jun Haotian's body was scattered and went towards Jun Haotian's body. Roar! Countless ancient mammoths roared, and the suppressive force immediately surrounded Jun Haotian, isolating all the sword chi and sword intent. Even though Jun Haotian had an unparalleled sacred body and an invincible physical body, he did not dare to face Bailey Schwanza's terrifying sword intent directly. After isolating all the sword chi and sword intent, Jun Haotian frowned. The current battle situation was obviously not what he was satisfied with. What he wanted was to crush. Even though Bailey Schwanza was third on the Langya list, Jun Haotian still wanted to crush him. In the next moment, Jun Haotian's body was surrounded by rays of light that filled the entire painting. Countless petals fell and danced in the sky. There were at least tens of thousands of petals floating in the air. At this moment, the entire world seemed to have quietened down. Jun Haotian stood in the endless light and looked at the falling petals in the sky. He said softly, "With a thought, the flowers bloom and the sovereign descends." In the blink of an eye, all the petals bloomed and shot out rays of light. At this moment, Bailey Schwanza's body suddenly tensed up, and his hair stood on end. He felt an unprecedented sense of danger. In the world of the scroll, the petals bloomed one after another. They were crystal clear and boundless. Then every petal seemed to have a Jun Haotian. Powerful true yuan surged like the sea, vast and boundless. Seeing this scene, Bailey Schwanza frowned, but the Moy ancient sword in his hand did not stop. He slashed out again and again, as if he wanted to cut the world apart. However, what Jun Haotian used was a Supreme Emperor technique. What was a Supreme Emperor technique? It was a heaven-defying ability that only a Supreme Emperor could create. Every Supreme Emperor technique was unique and could turn the world upside down. Although Jun Haotian's Yuan Dan Stage 1 strength was not enough to display the full power of this Supreme Emperor technique. However, it was enough to deal with Bailey Schwanza. All the petals bloomed at this moment, shooting out endless rays of light. Jun Haotian directly turned into a Supreme Heavenly Emperor, ruling over this part of the sky. Boom! The entire world of the scroll was covered in white by these rays of light. Everyone looked at the world of the scroll, but they could not see anything. What kind of secret technique is this? It's terrifying. Senior brother Bailey is a stage 10 Yuan Dan stage 1. But this technique is too. Faced with this supreme secret technique, even senior brother Bailey's Yuan Dan stage 10 cultivation. I wonder what the result will be. Senior brother Bailey won't lose so quickly, right? The disciples of the Langya sacred ground said, their faces pale. That dazzling scene was the most unforgettable scene they had ever seen in their lives. At this moment, even Tao Xian and the Supreme Elders could not help but stand up with excitement in their eyes. A Supreme Emperor technique. Seeing Jun Haotian use a Supreme Emperor technique again, they were even more certain that Jun Haotian could become the second Chu Linglong. Everyone stared at the world of the scroll, wanting to see the result. At this moment, the dazzling rays of light dimmed. Jun Haotian stood in the sky, rays of light swirling around his body. Opposite him, Bailey Schwanza's entire body was trembling, and his entire body was covered in blood. Chapter 115. At the most crucial moment, Jun Haotian chose to be merciful and stopped. The crowning ceremony was a challenge, and no one was allowed to kill. Even so, Jun Haotian's attack had caused great damage to Bailey Schwanza. Bailey Schwanza looked at Jun Haotian with a hint of fear in his eyes. At that moment, he really felt the threat of death. He really did not expect Jun Haotian to be able to unleash such terrifying power. Just now I lost to you in one move. However, this challenge is not over yet. Holding the Moy ancient sword, Bailey Schwanza's eyes flashed with determination as he looked at Jun Haotian with a burning gaze. Ever since Bailey Schwanza started practicing the way of the sword, He remembered the words his father had left him. Swordsman, advance courageously, rather break than submit. No matter what obstacles there are in front, he will slash with his sword. Moreover, even though he had just lost to Jun Haotian, Bailey Schwanza was still somewhat unconvinced. His defeat was very sudden, and he did not have the chance to use his ultimate move. He was not very willing to lose. He firmly believed that as long as he used that move, Jun Haotian would definitely lose. Hehe, it seems like you're still unconvinced. Seeing that Bailey Schwanza wanted to continue fighting, Jun Haotian's lips curled into a cold smirk as he said slowly, "Then let's continue. Let's see what you're capable of. If you're unconvinced, I, the Holy Sun, will beat you until you're convinced. Then let's wait and see." Bailey Schwanza stared at Jun Haotian with determination in his eyes. Then he roared, "Man and sword is one." In the next moment, the Moi ancient sword in his hand turned into a black stream of light and merged into his body. A terrifying sword intent surged, as if it could destroy the heavens and the earth. Outside the painting world, the swords in the hands of all the spectating disciples buzzed, as if they were responding to the sword intent that filled the painting world. Countless people's faces changed when they felt this aura. Even Feng Xiaoyao and Duga Bo looked serious. The three of them sparred frequently, and naturally knew that Bailey Schwanza had used his trump card. Man and sword is one. The man is the sword, and the sword is the man. One sword to kill immortal life and death. Once this sword is used, Bailey Schwanza will also be severely injured. Is he going all out just to defeat Jun Haotian? Seeing the crazed Bailey Schwanza, the two of them spoke slowly with a solemn expression. In the face of this sword, even they had a high chance of dying. It's the end. Feng Xiaoyao and Duga Bo came to a conclusion the moment Bailey Schwanza unleashed his attack. Although Jun Haotian had used a supreme secret technique with terrifying power, Jun Haotian was only at the Yuan Dan stage. But Jun Haotian was merely at the first level of the Origin Core stage. Jun Haotian probably didn't have enough true essence to execute such a terrifying secret technique once more, right? Therefore this time, Bailey Schwanza could defeat Jun Haotian. Seeing this, Jun Moyo couldn't help but clench his fists. Could Haotian really withstand such a terrifying killing move? On the other side, the Supreme Elder frowned when he saw this. He looked at the Holy Lord of Lengia and Tao Xian and asked, "Holy Lord, do you want them to stop?" No matter if Bailey Schwanza won or lost, both sides were destined to be injured. Both of them were the top geniuses of the Lengia Holy Ground. If they were injured, it would be a great loss to the Lengia Holy Ground. It doesn't matter. If he can't even withstand this, how can he be the Holy Sun? Hearing this, Dao Yin spoke slowly, his eyes filled with calmness. Although he knew this was harsh, as the Holy Sun, he had to be aware of this. After all, the Holy Sun and Holy Daughter of the other 6 Holy Lands. Which one of them wasn't a peerless genius? The Lengia Holy Ground only had one Xiang Holy Sun. It was far from enough. Hearing this, the Supreme Elder shook his head slightly. He secretly made up his mind. If either of them were injured, he would intervene immediately. At this moment in the scroll world, looking at Bailey Schwanza, who had become one with his sword, putting aside life and death, Jun Haotian's eyes flashed with admiration. It would be a good choice to take this person under his wing. However, this was the end of the line for today. No one could stop him from taking over the position of the Holy Sun. Jun Haotian's face turned cold. The true essence in his body surged wildly. In the next moment, the secret skill of power was activated countless times in an instant. Then Jun Haotian clenched his fist. An ancient blood-black divine bow suddenly appeared in his hand. In the blink of an eye, the wind and clouds stirred. Black lightning flashed continuously in the void. Jun Haotian held the sunshot divine bow in his hand and slowly pulled the bowstring. Roar! 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 In an instant the sky changed color. The shadows of ferocious beasts were about to rush out of the divine bow. In the scroll world, the essence chi within a 10,000-mile radius collapsed. It directly turned into a essence chi storm and gathered on the sunshot divine bow. Sizzle! Sizzle! Jun Haotian exerted all his strength and pulled the bowstring bit by bit. In the next moment, a golden divine arrow was placed on the divine bow. It burst forth with a boundless blood-red color. At this moment, all the true disciples, elders, and even the hall masters were shocked. The power of this arrow was at least that of a supreme-grade Dharma artifact. Moreover, with the support of Jun Haoyan's true essence, it formed a golden divine arrow that could kill immortals and Buddhas. Even though they were outside the scroll world, their divine souls could still sense the danger and tremble. Not to mention Bailey Xuanzi, who had already been targeted by Jun Haoyan. When Jun Haoyan pulled the arrow and shot it at Bailey Xuanzi's body trembled. In the next moment, the Moxie sword actually left Bailey Xuanzi's body and kept rumbling. The Moxie sword was actually afraid. After the Moxie sword left, the state of man and sword as one immediately disintegrated. Bailey Xuanzi's aura returned to normal again. As for Bailey Xuanzi, he could only feel his body trembling. His divine soul was about to be extinguished. If this arrow was shot, he would definitely die. If nothing unexpected happened, then he would definitely die. In the next moment, Bailey Xuanzi didn't hesitate to restrain his aura. He immediately cupped his hands before Jun Haoyan, and he spoke with a trembling voice. I, Bailey Xuanzi, am willing to honor you as the Holy Sun. At this moment, Bailey Xuanzi had put down his dignity as a swordsman. He was fearless, but it didn't represent that he was ignorant. Since he was clearly aware that he would definitely die, then why seek death? Outside the scroll world, countless people saw this scene and were instantly shocked. Jun Haoyan had merely drawn the Sunslayer bow in his hand in a semicircle, yet it was already so terrifying. What if he drew it to the full? Wouldn't he be able to kill even an Emperor Realm expert? When he saw Bailey Xuanzi admit defeat, Jun Haoyan slowly released the Sunslayer bow as well. The golden arrow that could annihilate gods and Buddhas vanished as well, and it transformed into nothingness. The boundless energy of the heavens and the earth returned to calm once more. When he sensed the aura that pressed down upon him vanish, Bailey Xuanzi couldn't help but heave a heavy sigh of relief. Just a moment ago, he felt like he'd taken a trip through the gates of hell. It was truly too terrifying. Bailey Xuanzi cupped his hands to Jun Haoyan, and then he didn't hesitate to directly leave the scroll world. On the other hand, Jun Haoyan stood within the scroll world. His black hair fluttered, and his white clothes fluttered as he spoke softly. Who else? His peerlessly domineering words instantly resounded through the sky like a thunderclap. Chapter 116. Who else? Standing on the scroll, Jun Haoyan spoke slowly. Although it was just a simple word, it sounded extremely domineering when spoken in such a situation. At the same time, the sunshot divine bow in his hand was exuding a cold aura. Hearing Jun Haoyan's arrogant words, the Big Dipper true disciples' faces changed slightly. However, no one dared to make a sound. At this moment Jun Haoyan, who was holding the sunshot divine bow, had become an invincible existence in everyone's eyes. They recalled the scene when Jun Haoyan pulled the sunshot divine bow. That terrifying aura and the power to shoot through the sky were simply appalling. No one was confident that they could withstand Jun Haoyan's arrow. Although Jun Haoyan's cultivation was only at level 1 Yuan Dan realm, his strength had already conquered everyone present. Dugu, are you not going to make a move? At this moment, on the jade platform where the true disciples were, Feng Xiaoyao asked Dugu, who was beside him. As he spoke, Feng Xiaoyao's voice carried a trace of fear. Obviously, Jun Haoyan's arrow had completely stunned him. What about you? Why aren't you making a move? Hearing that, Dugu also turned to look at Feng Xiaoyao. As soon as he said that, the two of them fell silent. At this moment, the disciples of the Langya sacred ground also looked at the two of them. Even Bailey Xuanzi had lost. The two of them were probably the only ones who could go against Jun Haoyan. However, the first and second ranked true disciples of the Big Dipper true disciples had no intention of making a move. They felt the gazes of the people around them. Feng Xiaoyao and Dugu pretended not to see it and remained silent. The previous scene was simply too shocking. Jun Haoyan had only pulled the sunshot divine bow halfway, and it was already so powerful. If Jun Haoyan missed, they would not be able to block that arrow. Since he couldn't block it, what was the point of going up? Was he courting death? Or to let others laugh at him? The entire central square of the Langya sacred ground was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop, and that presiding Grand Elder looked at those powerful heavenly dipper true inheritors. Everyone who met his gaze lowered their heads in shame. Since no one dares to challenge me, I hereby announce that Jun Haoyan has passed the first Holy Sun test. The Supreme Elder spoke with a hoarse voice. Hearing the Supreme Elder's declaration, countless people sighed. As long as Jun Haoyan passed the Heart Inquisition test, he would worship the heavens and pay his respects to the sages. Then he would be the second Holy Son of the Tai Holy Land, and no one would be able to shake him. From then on, Jun Haoyan became one of the most powerful figures in the Langya Holy Land. He would compete with Xiang Holy Sun for the position of Holy Lord. Boom! There was a vibration, and then the picture scroll under Jun Haoyan's feet disappeared, and Jun Haoyan's body slowly landed on the ground. This scene represented that Jun Haoyan had successfully passed the first test. The second test was the Heart Inquisition test. In this test, 3 different Supreme Elders would ask 3 different questions. After Jun Haoyan answered the questions, the 3 Supreme Elders would pay their respects to the sages, and the sages would make a decision. This Heart Inquisition test could be said to be the most difficult test, because no one knew what questions the Supreme Elders would ask. It could only be said that these questions had nothing to do with cultivation, magic treasures, or magical powers. Sometimes the questions were asked of all living beings. Sometimes it was the Tao of heaven and earth. Sometimes it was just a question that was so simple that it was no longer simple. But without exception, these questions were directed to the heart. This was the second test, the Heart Inquisition test. I hereby announce that the Heart Inquisition test begins. The Supreme Elder spoke again, and Jun Haoyan walked down step by step. He stood in the central square, and in front of him were the 9 statues of the Langya Holy Land sages. I wonder what questions the Supreme Elders will ask this time. How many sages will Jun Haoyan be recognized by? Generally, if you are recognized by 3 sages, you will pass. But Xiang Holy Sun is recognized by 5 ancestors. Jun Haoyan is a holy body after all, and his strength is so strong. Because of the previous battle, everyone began to affirm Jun Haoyan's strength. And if he wanted to become the Holy Sun, the Heart Inquisition test was indispensable. At least 3 sages had to recognize him to be qualified to succeed the position of the Holy Sun. Everyone was curious. How far could Jun Haoyan go? Then, on the seats in the void, the 3 Supreme Elders slowly stood up. Countless people held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold before their very eyes. The 3 Supreme Elders were thin, and their skin was even shriveled. They looked like mummies that had crawled out of coffins. However, no one dared to look down on them. As the Supreme Elders of the various holy lands, they were once influential figures on the martial god continent. The one on the far left was wearing a gray robe. His eyes were turbid and he was trembling. First question, what is Tao? He opened his mouth and asked his first question. What was Tao? Countless people pondered after hearing this question. Yes, what was Tao? A cultivator's cultivation could be called Tao cultivation. The Imperial Path realm could also be called Tao cultivation. But what was Tao? No one could explain it. Some of the core disciples were confused when they heard this question. This was only the first question, and he already asked such a question? It was too profound. No one had seen Tao before. How should they answer this question? Everyone looked at Jun Haoyan to see what he would say. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan was also confused. What was Tao? At this moment, Jun Haoyan suddenly recalled the Taoist scriptures he had read in his previous life. He immediately had an answer in his heart. The Tao is me, the Tao is you, the Tao is all living beings. Jun Haoyan recited slowly with a calm expression. The so-called Tao is limitless, and limitless gives birth to Taiji. Taiji gives birth to Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang give birth to the 4 divisions. The 4 divisions give birth to the 8 trigrams, and the 8 trigrams give birth to all things. All things include you and me. Therefore you and I are the Tao, and the entire world is the Tao. These were all classic Taoist teachings that Jun Haoyan had read in his previous life. Although he himself didn't really understand the true meaning behind it, He still felt that it was awesome, even if he didn't understand it. He believed that what he had said was absolutely enough to deal with the Grand Elder's question. His words completely shocked everyone present. In this world, there was no such thing as Taoism, especially the Tai Chi, Yin and Yang, 4 divisions and 8 trigrams that Jun Haoyan had mentioned. Everyone was even more shocked after hearing it. Even the Supreme Elder was slightly taken aback when he heard this. That was the first time he had heard that. Invite the sages. Without hesitation he spoke again. That was because he was only responsible for asking questions, not making comments. Therefore he had to invite the sages. As soon as he finished speaking, the 9 statues in the square emitted rays of light. Jun Haoyan stood where he was, and was illuminated by the light. Boom! A loud boom was heard, and countless people's expressions changed drastically. The 3 statues of the sages burst out with an extremely bright golden light, and the statues seemed to be about to break. The Tao is infinite, the infinite is Tai Chi good. The 4 divisions and 8 trigrams transform into all things good. I am the Tao is all things good. Just when everyone was still in shock, a voice suddenly rang out. 3 consecutive voices came from the void. Countless people were trembling in disbelief. On the central square, 3 illusory figures appeared from the 3 statues. Those were the 3 sages of the Langya sacred ground. At that moment, they had actually manifested. Chapter 117. At this moment, even the Holy Lord Langya, Tao Xian, who was sitting on the golden chair, stood up. Looking at the abstruse and mysterious scene in front of him, Tao Xian's eyes flashed with a trace of disbelief. These phantoms in front of him were all traces of consciousness left behind by the past sages. Ever since he succeeded the position of the Holy Lord, these sages' consciousness had never manifested. Even when the Holy Lord held the coronation ceremony in the past, it only emitted a little light. How could it be like this, where the phantoms directly appeared? How could this be? This was something that had never happened before. Tao Xian and all the Supreme Elders looked at Jun Haoyan and had an answer in their hearts. Jun Haoyan's answer had made the sages extremely satisfied. They approved of Jun Haoyan's answer and thought it was the most perfect answer. According to the assessment standards of the self-examination, as long as the 3 sages approved of Jun Haoyan, it meant that Jun Haoyan had passed the examination. In the following test, even Jun Haoyan's following answers could not be approved by the other sages. He had already taken the position of the Holy Lord. According to the rules, Jun Haoyan had passed the self-examination. At this moment, Jun Haoyan was also a little shocked. He had never thought that his casual answers to some scriptures would cause such a commotion. This really surprised him. After the 3 sages had manifested, they said a sentence of judgment and disappeared again. The disciples of the Langya Holy Land, who were watching outside the arena, were also extremely shocked when they saw this scene. Okay, the self-examination continues. After the 3 sages had left, Tao Xian slowly sat down and said seriously. The Supreme Elder who had just asked the question nodded and stepped back. Jun Haoyan had only answered the first question, and he had already passed the Heart Inquisition. However, according to the usual practice, he had to answer 3 questions, so the self-examination had to continue. Moreover, they also wanted to see how many wise sages Jun Haoyan would be able to manifest their divinity and obtain their recognition. Then another Grand Elder walked out. He looked at Jun Haoyan and asked slowly, "Where is the Tao? Where is the Tao?" Was it this kind of troublesome problem again? When the others heard this question, they felt a headache coming on. Most of the Langya Holy Sun present did not understand the meaning of this question at all. They just shook their heads. As for Jun Haoyan, he reviewed the contents of the Taoist scripture in his mind. Then he said calmly, "Taoism is formless, soundless, and odorless. It is big but has no outside and small but has no inside. Yet it can produce all things in the world." When Jun Haoyan spoke, his tone was calm, and he was very confident. Man is Tao, and Tao follows nature. Where is Tao? Outside of all things in the world, within all things in the world, and in our hearts. What a cultivator cultivates is the Dharma, and also the Tao. The simple life of all living beings is also the Tao. Jun Haoyan directly copied the contents of the Taoist scripture from his memory. It was somewhat specious. How could the others listen to such a speech? They were all confused, but they seemed to have understood something. They did not understand, but they felt that it was awesome. When the Grand Elder who asked the question heard it, he also fell into deep thought. He did not make any comments on Jun Haoyan's answer. He only said respectfully to the 9 statues, "Sage, please." In this situation, they could only ask the sage to judge. At this moment, everyone turned their attention to the central square once again. A boundless aura emerged once again. This time, there were not only 3 rays of light. There were a total of 5 rays. The 5 statues emitted a dazzling divine light that shone on Jun Haoyan. One figure after another walked out of the statues. Each of them had a powerful aura that was terrifying to the soul. These powerful figures walked out step by step, giving off a vicissitude aura. At this moment, no one could continue to sit like this. The Grand Elders, Temple Masters, and Holy Lord Tao Xian all looked at the statues in the central square. The appearance of 5 figures in a row shocked everyone to the point that they did not know what to say. Those 5 figures were all the sages of the Langya sacred ground. Moreover, they were the 5 that had appeared before. In other words, Jun Haoyan's answer this time directly allowed the 5 sages to appear. At this point, Jun Haoyan had received the recognition of 8 sages. Man is Tao, and Tao follows nature. Not bad. All things in the world come to me, and I am Tao. Good. All living things are also Tao. Good. The abstruse and mysterious Tao voice sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone was shocked. The Grand Elders and Holy Lord Tao Xian looked at each other. The Langya sacred ground had been established for 180,000 years. Other than the one from 30,000 years ago, no one had ever received the recognition of 8 sages in a row. This Jun Haoyan was really too heaven-defying. Could he really be the second Chu Linglong of the Langya sacred ground? This time, whether it was the Temple Masters or the Grand Elders, they had all completely recognized Jun Haoyan's heaven-defying talent. The Holy Lord of Langya's face showed an extremely gratified expression. His judgment was right. The recognition of 8 sages. At least he had not achieved this step in the past. Now Jun Haoyan had done it. Could this be the sign of the resurgence of the Langya sacred ground? The Langya sacred ground was one of the 7 sacred grounds of the human race. In terms of strength, it was one of the best. But even at its peak, it could only be ranked second. The number 1 sacred ground of the human race had always been the Kunlun sacred ground. Even with Tao Xian's strong rise back then, it was still not comparable to the Kunlun sacred ground. In terms of foundation and strength, the Langya sacred ground was really not as good as the Kunlun sacred ground. But now, Jun Haoyan's appearance gave him a glimmer of hope. At this moment, in the central square, the 5 figures appeared, and the light shrouded Jun Haoyan. The recognition of the 8 sages was only once in the Langya sacred ground. Everyone looked at the center of the square, their faces full of shock. Especially those heavenly star true disciples who lost to Jun Haoyan. They were even more convinced. If it were them, they would not be able to do so. This time, they were sincerely impressed by Jun Haoyan. Not long after, the 5 figures gradually disappeared. The endless light also dimmed at this time. The second question was passed. Next it was the third question. In fact, even if the last question was not asked, Jun Haoyan becoming the Holy Son of Langya was an ironclad fact. But the Holy Son test was the rule of the sacred ground. There had to be a beginning and an end. The second Grand Supreme Elder turned around and returned to the void seat. At this moment, the third Grand Supreme Elder walked out. His chi and blood were dry, and his body was trembling. It was as if a gust of wind would blow him away. But the Grand Supreme Elder was the one who asked the last question. One could imagine how powerful it was. Without wasting any time, the Grand Supreme Elder opened his eyes and slowly asked the last question. What is the Tao? Chapter 118. What is Tao? The Grand Supreme Elder opened his mouth, and a golden light burst out from his cloudy eyes. Everyone present was a little confused when they heard the question. Didn't Tao mean what Tao was? Didn't he ask the same question just now? Why was he asking again now? One had to know that when Jun Haotian answered this question, he had received the approval of the three sages. What was the point of asking the same question now? Most of the disciples of the Langya sacred ground were confused when they heard the question. They did not understand what it meant. However, the other true disciples did not think it was a simple question. Although the question had the same meaning as before, it could be understood as another question. However, it was hard to say how to answer it. What was Tao? Tao was something that could not be explained in a few words. The Grand Supreme Elder who asked the question also stared at Jun Haotian with burning eyes, as if he was waiting for Jun Haotian to answer. The questions of the self-examination were not chosen by them. These questions were selected from the previous tests of the Holy Sun. These questions were all questions that the sages of Langya had once asked. There were thousands of questions, and only 3 of them were selected today. As for the answer, even the Grand Supreme Elder himself was not very clear. What was Tao? How could this be explained? Some people asked if Tao was supreme, but where did it come from? Some people asked if it was supreme, but where did it come from? What was Tao? Where was Tao? Who was Tao? Everyone was thinking about this question, but no one could come up with an answer. Even the elders of the Langya sacred ground and the temple master were deep in thought. Although they had an answer in their hearts, they still felt that the answer was not perfect, but they could not tell what was wrong. What was Tao? Jun Haotian was silent. He turned slightly and looked at everything around him. He looked at the hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground. After a moment he smiled. At this moment, he already had an answer in his heart, and he said, "The Tao is all living beings, and all living beings are the Tao. I've walked the path from the Holy Land, and it was full of twists and turns. The people, the things, and the things I see are all the Tao." As soon as Jun Haotian opened his mouth, what he said made everyone gasp in amazement. This sentence was similar to what he had said before. Tao begets 1, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. After a pause, Jun Haotian continued, "Outside the Langya Holy Land, there are ordinary people in the wilderness who eat raw meat and drink blood. This is the Tao. There are people who treat the wounded and save the world. This is the Tao." Grand Supreme Elder asked me if I am Tao, so I answered. Elder is Tao. I am Tao. The Sacred Lord is Tao. The stone is Tao. The grass is Tao. The flower is Tao. The bird is Tao. The fish is Tao. Everything is Tao. All sentient beings have the appearance of morality, but they can't prove it because of their wishful thinking. Jun Haotian's words that seemed to be the truth of heaven and earth slowly came out of his mouth. At this moment Jun Haotian was dressed in white. He was eloquent and had an extraordinary demeanor. Everyone was immersed in Jun Haotian's words. However, at this moment, thousands of rays of light suddenly shone on his body. On the central square of the Langya Holy Land, countless heavenly flowers fell and golden lotuses surged. Endless rays of light shot out. Seeing this scene, everyone fell into a state of shock. Jun Haotian's words seemed to have resonated with all things. On the square, the 9th statue began to shake. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes were focused on the 9th statue. Then, the 9th statue emitted the light of Tao Xian, and an extraordinary shadow slowly appeared. The shadow stood alone in the air, and a peerlessly powerful aura filled the entire square. It was as if thousands of laws had merged, and it was abstruse and mysterious. The moment he walked out, heaven and earth roared, and the entire Langya Holy Land fell into an endless pressure. Seeing this shadow, the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, and the Supreme Elders all stood up. They all looked at the illusory figure in astonishment. Jun Haotian was also very shocked when he saw this shadow. This shadow wore an imperial crown and an imperial robe, and the aura he emitted was enough to suppress a world. Just by standing there, he seemed to be suppressing the entire void. The 9th statue was the founder of the Langya Holy Land, the Lord of Langya. At this moment his sacred appearance was still young. He slowly walked in front of Jun Haotian with a smile on his face. All sentient beings have the appearance of morality, but they can't prove it because of their wishful thinking. You are very good. The Lord of Langya spoke. His voice was like a big yellow bell, suppressing everything in the world. His words covered the entire sky, as if they were transmitted hundreds of millions of miles away, passing through this world. When everyone heard this voice, they all fell into a state of enlightenment. After a while, they reacted and bowed down to worship. Greetings, Lord of Langya. Greetings, Lord of Langya. Greetings, Supreme Ancestor. Countless people were extremely pious. This was the Supreme Existence who had been invincible in the Wushan continent for 180,000 years. He was the irreplaceable founder of the Langya Holy Land. Everyone was in disbelief. The Lord of Langya, the founder of Langya, had shown his power. This had never happened in the 180,000 years since the establishment of the Langya Holy Land. At this moment, even the Holy Lord of Langya and all the Supreme Elders couldn't sit still. They all appeared in front of the Lord of Langya and bowed. Greetings, Founder. Even though they were invincible existences, they were still shocked when they saw the Lord Primogenitor. The 3 questions that Jun Haotian answered were approved by the 9 sages of the Holy Land. They even allowed the founder of Langya to show his power. What did this mean? This was the sign of the revival of the Holy Land. Even someone like the Holy Lord of Langya was amazed. He knew that Jun Haotian wouldn't disappoint him, but he never thought that Jun Haotian would be able to do this. At this moment, the Lord of Langya glanced at Jun Haotian and nodded. He didn't say anything, because this was only a trace of his will left behind. After a long while, the Lord of Langya slowly turned his head. His eyes seemed to have gone through the vicissitudes of life as he looked at Jun Haotian. You're very good. I'll give you 9 Holy Sun's marks. The Lord of Langya said to him, with a hint of admiration in his voice. The Holy Sun's mark? Hearing this, Jun Haotian was confused. What was the Holy Sun's mark? However, when the others heard this, they were all shocked. 9 Langya Holy Sun's marks? What did this mean? Every Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land would be given a Langya Holy Sun's mark after being recognized by the sages. The more marks one had, the higher the degree of recognition. Even the Purple Sun Saint Sun had only obtained 3 strands. As for the Holy Lord Tao Xian, when he was still a Holy Sun, he received 5 marks of the Holy Sun. Moreover, in the 180,000 years since the establishment of the Langya Holy Land, the highest number of Holy Sun's marks had only been 8. Now Jun Haotian actually received 9 Holy Sun's marks. What did this mean? This was the highest recognition of the Holy Sun of the Jun Haotian Holy Land. There was only one in 180,000 years. At this moment, countless people were still in shock. The Lord of Langya slowly extended his palm, and rays of divine light gathered. At this moment, Jun Haotian seemed to be enveloped by a mysterious power. In his dantian, a special mark was forming. Chapter 119. The mark in Jun Haotian's body was in the shape of a Tai Chi 8 trigrams, but it was somewhat different. On this mark, there were 9 different runes flashing. These should be the 9 marks of the Holy Sun that the Lord of Langya had mentioned. After receiving this mark, Jun Haotian felt a special aura enveloping him, making him feel as if he was wrapped in sunlight, warm and comfortable. This mark should not be as simple as just representing the Holy Sun's identity. At this moment, Jun Haotian felt that he was immersed in a very strange state. As if he had an epiphany, his divine soul and true origin were transforming, becoming stronger and stronger. Could this be the legendary power of providence? Jun Haotian seemed to have sensed something as he carefully sensed it, and he muttered to himself. It was rumored that some of the top geniuses, who had the backing of a large sect, would be blessed by the heavens. These people were originally very talented, and under the blessing of the heavens, their cultivation would be smooth sailing. Moreover, these people would not die easily. This kind of blessing of the heavens was also known as the power of providence. When one was enveloped by the power of providence, it meant that they were blessed by the heavens. The power of providence was a very abstruse and mysterious power. It was hard to explain, but it did exist. Now Jun Haotian was also enveloped by this power of providence. This benefit was obviously brought to him by the Holy Sun's mark. Feeling the benefits brought to him by the Holy Sun's mark, Jun Haoyan was overjoyed. He stopped thinking about it and slowly closed his eyes. The complete formation of the Holy Sun's mark required time, and he needed to wait patiently. At this moment, the Holy Lord of Langia, Tao Xian, and the Supreme Elders were all standing not far away, not daring to disturb him. They looked at Jun Haoyan, who was accepting the Holy Lord's mark, and their eyes flashed with excitement from time to time. After so many years, the Langia sacred ground finally had a peerless talent. Obviously, Jun Haoyan's appearance made him extremely excited. At this moment, Tao Xian was even more pleased with himself. He was proud of his decision back then. His decision to confer the title to Jun Haoyan back then was indeed a wise one. Moreover, Jun Haoyan's performance at the coronation ceremony made Tao Xian even more certain that Jun Haoyan was the second Chu Linglong. He was the one and only holy son of the Langia Holy Land. Alas, what a pity! Jun Haoyan and Wang Su have already become enemies. A supreme elder looked at Jun Haoyan's figure and said. Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something and frowned. His words immediately silenced Tao Xian and the other supreme elders. Given the current situation, the two holy sons would definitely be on opposite sides in the future. Although this was inevitable, they would have to fight for the position of Holy Lord in the future. However, as the supreme elders of the Langia sacred ground, they still hoped that the two could bury the hatchet and let the Langia sacred ground take another step forward. Let nature take its course. Only one person can be the Holy Lord of Langia. After a while, the Holy Lord of Langia, Tao Xian, said slowly. Whether it was Jun Haoyan or Wang Su, they were both peerless geniuses of the Langia sacred ground. In the end, no matter who won, it would only be good for the Langia sacred ground. If Jun Haoyan won, it meant that he might really be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Chu Linglong. If Wang Su won, it could only mean that Jun Haoyan had the talent, but he did not have the luck to reach that step. What was a strong person? A strong person was someone who had always been victorious in the competition step by step. Not to mention the most powerful honorables, even the Holy Lord of Langia, Tao Xian. The reason he was able to become the Holy Master was because he had experienced endless slaughter and trampled over mountains of corpses and seas of corpses. This was a step that a strong person had to go through. Without this awareness, one could not become a true strong person. Hearing this, all the supreme elders looked at each other and nodded. Geniuses like Jun Haoyan and Wang Su had pride in their hearts. It would be difficult to make them bury the hatchet. Then, one of the supreme elders suddenly thought of something. After pondering for a while, he said to Tao Xian, Holy Lord, what about Jun Haoyan's title? Every holy son and holy daughter's birth would be accompanied by their own titles. These titles were basically decided by the Holy Lord himself. They could not be careless. Hearing this, the other supreme elders immediately looked at Tao Xian. I've already decided on this. Seeing this, the Holy Lord of Langia and Tao Xian smiled slightly. Clearly, he had already decided that Jun Haoyan would be the Holy Son. Meanwhile, around the square. At this moment, countless Langia sacred ground disciples were looking at the white-robed figure in the middle of the square. Everyone's eyes were filled with envy, respect, and admiration. Jun Haoyan had received the full approval of the 9 honorable forefathers. After the sacrificial ceremony, Jun Haoyan would truly become the holy son of the Langia sacred land. After the sacrificial ceremony, Jiang Chun would officially become the second holy son of the Tai sacred land. No one dared refute this. Even the 9 honorable forefathers and the Lord Primogenitor had shown their divinity and acknowledged Jun Haoyan. Who would dare to stop Jun Haoyan from inheriting the position of the Holy Son? Even those heavenly dipper true disciples with extraordinary strength were speechless at this moment. Jun Haoyan's strength and talent had won them over. On the jade platform of the true disciples, Bailey Xuanzi, Feng Xiaoyao, and Dugabo looked at each other and smiled wryly. The 3 of them were the most qualified to become the second Holy Son. Although they were much weaker than the Xiang Holy Son, they were the strongest true disciples in the sacred land. But Jun Haoyan's sudden appearance had completely shattered their hopes of becoming the next Holy Son. At this moment, Junemo felt like he was in a dream. He had only planned to let his younger brother cultivate with him in the sacred land and improve his strength. That would be a great help to the Jun family in the future. But she never expected that her good brother would be promoted from a mere outer disciple to the Holy Son, not long after he entered the Langya sacred land. If this were to be spread, it would definitely be shocking. Even she felt like she was in a dream. Boom! Just as everyone was sighing, there was a loud roar in the central square. For a moment, everyone's eyes were once again on Jun Haotian. At this time, Jun Haotian had completely accepted the mark of the Holy Son of Langya. At this moment, he looked even more magnificent in his white robe. Everyone who saw him could not help but kowtow to him. The second test of the coronation ceremony has been completed. Next, pray to the heavens and the ancestors. The ceremony will now begin. Hearing this, all the disciples of the sacred land bowed to the 9 statues in the central square. They were paying respects to the ancestors. In the next moment, the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, walked out. His aura was powerful and terrifying. In an instant he stood next to Jun Haotian. You did not disappoint me. Tao Xian looked at Jun Haotian with eyes full of admiration. Then, Tao Xian once again looked at everyone present. In the name of the Holy Lord of Langya, I officially confer on Jun Haotian the title of the second Holy Son of Langya. Title Haotian. Chapter 120. Jun Haotian is officially crowned as the second Holy Son of the Langya sacred ground. Title Haotian. The Holy Lord of Langya's words were like thunder, exploding in the void. Then, it slowly spread throughout the entire square, dispersing the clouds in the Langya sacred ground. Just his voice alone was so imposing. No wonder he was the Holy Lord of Langya. All the disciples of the Langya sacred ground looked at Tao Xian with infinite respect. When they heard Tao Xian's words, the expressions of the 7 temple masters and elders of the Langya sacred ground kept changing. They were not against Jun Haotian becoming the Holy Son, but because of Jun Haotian's title of Holy Son. Haotian, such a noble and supreme title. Throughout history, there had been many outstanding saints, but none of them had ever used such a noble title. It seemed that the Holy Lord had high hopes for Jun Haotian. Others did not understand the meaning of this title, but the temple masters and elders knew very well. Although they understood, they did not feel any dissatisfaction in their hearts. Jun Haotian had received unprecedented recognition from the 9 sages in the self-examination test, including the Lord Ancestor, the Lord of Langya. He was fully deserving of this title. When Jun Haotian heard the title Tao Xian gave him, he was stunned. He did not expect that the alias he used back then would become his title. He understood the meaning of this title in his heart. Holy Son of Haotian. Yes, it sounded very domineering. Jun Haotian was very satisfied with this title. After calming himself down, Jun Haotian said to Tao Xian in a serious tone, "Thank you, Holy Lord, for bestowing this title. I will not let you and the Holy Lord down." Facing this title, he accepted it with a clear conscience. He believed that one day, he would be worthy of this title. Just as Jun Haotian finished speaking, the 9 statues in the center of the square glowed brightly again. This was their response to Jun Haotian's words. They were obviously very satisfied with Jun Haotian's attitude. Seeing this, even the usually stoic Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, could not help but smile. Then, with Tao Xian as the leader, everyone bowed to the 9 statues again. The heavens offering ceremony was a ceremony for everyone to worship the sages. Seeing this, Jun Haotian did not hesitate to bow to the 9 sages. Suddenly, the entire central square was shrouded in endless light, and rainbow-colored auspicious clouds appeared continuously. Between heaven and earth, heaven and earth. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on Jun Haotian, who was standing in the center. Jun Haotian was dressed in white, looking extraordinary. Around Jun Haotian, heavenly chi surged and enveloped Jun Haotian. At this moment, Jun Haotian had become the Holy Son of the Langya sacred ground, gaining the recognition of the sages and holy lords. A portion of the sacred ground of Langya's immense power of providence was instantly diverted to protect Jun Haotian. At this moment, Jun Haotian stood in front of everyone. receiving thousands of gazes. Enveloped by the heavenly chi, he was unparalleled in his generation, and was respected by thousands. After a while, the heavenly chi on Jun Haoyan's body slowly receded. After the heavenly chi disappeared, Jun Haoyan and the Holy Lord of Langya stood side by side. The heavenly chi had dispersed, which meant that the heavens offering ceremony had ended. At this moment, Jun Haoyan had officially become the holy son of the Langya sacred ground. At this moment, all the disciples bowed again. Whether it was the outer sect, inner sect core, or true disciples, they all did the same thing. Facing Jun Haoyan, they bowed and cupped their fists. Greetings, holy son of Hao Tian. Greetings, holy son of Hao Tian. Greetings, holy son of Hao Tian. Pay respects to the holy son. That was the last step of the crowning ceremony. Only by successfully listening to all the tests of the crowning ceremony would one be qualified to be paid respects by the disciples of Langya. At this moment, Jun Haoyan had become the holy son of the Langya sacred ground. His status was unparalleled. The disciples of the Langya sacred ground who were once dissatisfied with Jun Haoyan hated him and doubted him. At this moment, they had no choice but to lower their proud heads and pay respects to Jun Haoyan. From now on, you are the holy son of the Langya sacred ground, the holy son of Hao Tian. Tao Xian spoke and looked at Jun Haoyan with admiration in his eyes. To be honest, the fact that Jun Haoyan was able to reach this step had surprised him as well. Thank you, Holy Lord, for your guidance. Jun Haoyan naturally knew that he could become the holy son without the help of the Holy Lord of Langya. The Holy Lord of Langya saw his potential, so he crowned him as the holy son. And now, he had used his actions to prove that he, Jun Haoyan, was worthy of the position of the holy son. No matter what, it was all thanks to the holy leader that he was able to become the holy son. Jun Haoyan was not stingy with his respect. As the holy son of the Langya, you have a lot of things to do in the future. Tao Xian was very satisfied with Jun Haoyan's attitude. He had not misjudged him. I understand. Jun Haoyan nodded. Indeed, becoming the holy son of the Langya was only the first step. In the Wushan continent, other than the 7 sacred grounds of the eastern wilderness, there were also the 4 great empires of the central region, the demon race and the demon sect. There were peerless geniuses among the top forces of the continent. For example, the Xiang Holy Sun. He was the most powerful genius in the Langya sacred ground. But in the entire Wushan continent, he might not be able to stand at the top. Moreover, he was only in one of the 3,000 small worlds. He still had a long way to go before he could become a true powerhouse. Now that you have become the Holy Sun, you have the right to go to the highest level of the Sutra Depository of Langya to learn divine powers. Go there when you have time. It will be helpful to your cultivation. The Holy Lord of Langya looked at Jun Haoyan and said slowly. Jun Haoyan nodded. The Sutra Depository of Langya recorded all kinds of divine powers and cultivation techniques of the Langya sacred ground. But only people with higher status could come into contact with more powerful divine powers and cultivation techniques. He was now the Holy Sun, so the Langya Depository of Langya was no obstacle to him. He could freely choose any divine powers and cultivation techniques. This was the treatment of the Holy Sun. I will order the Migres Palace to open a divine peak for you. But it will take some time. Tao Xian continued. A person like the Holy Sun was more important than a true disciple. The divine peak was just a standard. Okay, I will stay at the Moyushan peak for the next few days, Jun Haoyan said without much care. These chores would naturally be arranged for him. Tao Xian nodded, said a few words and left. The various grand elders also nodded slightly to Jun Haoyan, and then disappeared. They were the most powerful people in the Langya sacred ground, and could be said to be the foundation of the sacred ground. They would not appear unless there was a major event. Now that the coronation ceremony was over, it was time to leave. Haotian, no, I should call you the Holy Sun now. At this moment, Jun Maya walked to Jun Haotian's side. Other than the grand elders and the sacred leader, the other disciples and elders did not leave. The Holy Sun's status was too high. If he did not leave, even the palace masters would have to be more cautious. Sister, don't joke with me. Even if I am the Holy Sun, I still have to call you sister, right? Hearing this, Jun Haoyan smiled helplessly. You have a conscience, kid. You didn't waste my love for you. Jun Moyo smiled. She looked peerless and beautiful. However, she quickly restrained her smile and said solemnly, I received news. The Xiang Holy Sun will be back soon. Chapter 121. Xiang Holy Sun is coming back soon? Jun Haoyan's expression didn't change at all when he heard that. But he was a little fearful. In fact, he hadn't officially met Xiang Holy Sun yet. But he had to admit that Xiang Holy Sun was a true peerless genius. Because of the incident with Xing Shan, he had fought with Xiang Holy Sun's clone. Just one clone was enough to make him feel a little pressured. It was obvious how strong Xiang Holy Sun was. Because of the incident with Long Ziyue and Xing Shan, Jun Haoyan was now on the opposite side of Xiang Holy Sun. Even so, Jun Haoyan didn't regret it in the slightest. They were both Holy Sun, so they would have a big battle sooner or later. Xiang Holy Sun was indeed very strong, but Jun Haoyan was now on the same level as him. It was still unknown who would win. When I killed Xing Shan, I knew that I would become his enemy in the future. Don't worry. Although I can't defeat him now, he can't kill me either. The corners of Jun Haoyan's mouth curled up as he spoke casually. With a holy physique and many Supreme Emperor techniques, Jun Haoyan believed that no matter how strong his enemies were, they would be trampled under his feet. Don't let your guard down. Xiang Holy Sun has already broken through to the Imperial Dao realm. Jun Moyo was slightly relieved when he saw Jun Haoyan's expression, but he still couldn't help but remind him. Xiang Holy Sun's invincible image in the hearts of the disciples of the Langia Sacred Ground was too deep. Before Jun Moyo joined the Langia Sacred Ground, Xiang Holy Sun had already been the Holy Sun. For so many years, no one had ever seen his true strength. Even the top 3 Heavenly Dipper disciples on the Langia ranking had never truly fought with Xiang Holy Sun. Jun Haoyan had displayed great talent and strength during the coronation ceremony, but Jun Haoyan was too young. He wasn't a match for Xiang Holy Sun yet. Imperial Dao Realm. Haha, that's even more challenging. Jun Haoyan raised his eyebrows when he heard that, but he was still as confident as ever. He had never felt any fear towards the Purple Sun Saint Sun. All he felt was a strong desire to battle. The purpose of him leaving Soaring Dragon City was to see more experts, to see the so-called peerless heavens pride of this world. In fact, he even had a wild ambition in his heart, and that was, he wanted to defeat all the geniuses in the world. A mere Xiang Holy Sun wasn't enough to stop him. Jun Haoyan couldn't help but cast his gaze at the vast 3,000 minor worlds. Even the God realm that stood above the heavens. That was the best stage for him to display his strength. Good. Since you're so confident, I can rest assured. Jun Moyo immediately relaxed when he saw Jun Haoyan's confidence, and thought that Jun Haoyan might be an inheritor of the God realm. Jun Moyo then looked around and said to Jun Haoyan, let's return to Mou Divine Peak first. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan nodded. Then, he turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Jun Moyo immediately turned into a streak of light, and left with Jun Haoyan. See you off, Holy Sun. Seeing Jun Haoyan leave, all the disciples of the Langia Sacred Ground said in unison in the direction that Jun Haoyan had left. The Holy Sun's status in the Sacred Ground was like that of a crown prince in a secular dynasty. He was incomparably noble. Although the 7 sacred grounds of the human race were sacred grounds for cultivation, they weren't inferior to the secular dynasties in some aspects of etiquette. I really didn't expect that the outer disciple, who overturned the entire ethereal peak with his own strength, would become the incomparably noble Holy Sun. Isn't that so? Back then, when I saw his extraordinary talent, I even wanted to let him enter my Yuheng Hall. Bah, with your Yuheng Hall, the Holy Sun wouldn't be interested. My Kaiyang Hall is more suitable. After Jun Haoyan left, the 7 Hall Masters actually started to bicker. The 7 Hall Masters didn't usually get along with each other. Now that they were quarreling, no one dared to mediate. When the 7 Hall Elders saw this, they all shook their heads helplessly. However, some of the elders still had lingering fears. Back then, Jun Haoyan and Long Ziyue had a grudge against each other. Fortunately, they didn't have any prejudice against Jun Haoyan because of Tsingshan. Otherwise, now that Jun Haoyan had become the Holy Sun, they would be doomed if he blamed them. Soon, the 7 hall masters and elders also left the square. The grandiose coronation ceremony also officially came to an end. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, the news that Jun Haoyan had become the Holy Son of the Langia Sacred Ground began to spread from the Langia Sacred Ground. Jun Haoyan's reputation also began to spread. It wouldn't be long before the entire Eastern Wilderness knew that there was a new Holy Sun in the Langia Sacred Ground. During these 3 days, Jun Haoyan didn't relax. He had been in seclusion to understand and familiarize himself with his power. At the same time, he also carefully studied the Holy Sun's mark in his body. He found that the Holy Sun's mark had other benefits besides helping him gather the power of providence. Through the Holy Sun's mark, Jun Haoyan could increase his power. Most importantly, the Holy Sun's mark could directly communicate with the experts of the sacred ground. If he was in danger, he could directly summon the experts of the sacred ground. Of course, there was only one chance to do so. Even so, the Holy Sun's mark could be considered a priceless treasure. It could save one's life in a critical moment. The Holy Sun was the hope of the sacred ground's future. Naturally, he couldn't die so easily. Of course, apart from the Langia Sacred Ground, the Holy Sun of the other human sacred grounds also received the same treatment. However, it didn't mean that he could do whatever he wanted with the Holy Sun's mark. In the Wushan continent, there were secret methods that could temporarily disable the Holy Sun's mark. Therefore, the Holy Sun's mark was at most a form of recognition. After understanding this, Jun Haoyan didn't care too much. He had never thought of relying on the Holy Sun's mark to save his life. He only believed in his own power. Only when he was strong himself could he be truly strong. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Without thinking too much, he got rid of all distracting thoughts and prepared to continue stabilizing his cultivation and familiarizing himself with his power. Haoyan, are you there? At this moment, Jun Moyo's voice sounded. Given Jun Haoyan's current status in the Langia Sacred Ground, Jun Moyo was the only one who dared to call him that. In the Sacred Ground, only Jiang Mingxue dared to call Jiang Chen that. Sister. Hearing Jun Moyo's voice, Jun Haoyan immediately walked out. The Migres Palace just sent word that your Haoyan Divine Peak has been completed. Seeing Jun Haoyan, Jun Moyo said slowly. Jun Haoyan was slightly taken aback. It was completed so quickly, but on second thought Jun Haoyan understood. This was the sacred ground of the human race. There were countless great experts here. It wasn't difficult to move mountains and fill oceans. What was a mere Haoyan Divine Peak to them? Alright, then let's go see how my Haoyan Divine Peak is going. After that, Jun Haoyan led Jun Moyo away from Mou Divine Peak. As the Holy Sun's Divine Peak, only the Holy Sun had the right to live in it. Originally, there was only one Divine Peak in the Langia Sacred Ground. Now Jun Haoyan's Divine Peak was the second. After entering the Divine Peak, everything Jun Haoyan had to be done according to the Holy Sun's standards. Clothes, guards of honor, and so on. In addition, after the Holy Sun entered the Holy Sun Divine Peak, all disciples of the Sacred Ground had to enter the Divine Peak to pay their respects to the Holy Sun. In short, there were many rules. Otherwise, how could the Holy Sun's dignity be displayed? Soon Jun Haoyan and Jun Moyo saw the newly built Divine Peak. Chapter 122. Jun Haoyan and Jun Moyo looked over and saw a peerless divine mountain that was tens of thousands of feet tall floating in the void, surrounded by countless colorful clouds. On the divine mountain, there were countless pavilions and buildings, and there were various formations protecting these pavilions. Compared to Mou's divine mountain, this Holy Sun's divine mountain was undoubtedly much more majestic and imposing. Not to mention other things. Just the unparalleled aura emitted by this Holy Sun's divine mountain directly crushed other true divine mountains. Beside this Holy Sun's divine mountain was naturally the Xiang Holy Sun's Purple Sun Divine Mountain. At this moment, on the Holy Sun's Divine Mountain, incomparably tall troll puppets were constantly repairing this divine mountain. The Troll clan was a type of devil clan. After the Langya Holy Land killed the Troll clan, it used a secret method to refine them into puppets, which were specially used to move mountains and fill seas. It was all thanks to these troll puppets that they were able to build such a divine mountain in a short 3 days. Just as Jun Haoyan stepped into the Holy Sun's divine mountain, an elder of the Migra's palace came up to greet him enthusiastically. "Greetings, Holy Sun!" Even though he was an elder of the Migra's palace, in the face of the incomparably honorable Holy Sun, even he had to pay his respects. Jun Haoyan nodded slightly, then brought Jun Moyo to tour the Holy Sun's divine mountain. At this moment, the main hall of the Holy Sun's divine mountain was basically completed, and only some corner repairs were left. Of course, there was no problem at all to move in now. "Holy Sun, please name this divine mountain." At this moment, the Migra's palace elder came over again and said with a smile. Ever since Jun Haoyan arrived at the Holy Sun's divine mountain, this elder's attitude had been very humble. At the coronation ceremony 3 days ago, Jun Haoyan's unparalleled strength and talent had already conquered everyone. At this moment, this elder also felt heartfelt admiration for Jun Haoyan. A peerless genius would be respected wherever he went. A name? Hearing this elder's words, Jun Haoyan was stunned. Every divine mountain would have its own name, just like Jun Moyo's divine mountain. But Jun Haoyan's Holy Sun's divine mountain had just been built, so naturally, it did not have a name. Although the Holy Sun's divine mountain was built by the Migra's palace, this elder of the Migra's palace did not dare to make a decision, and could only ask Jun Haoyan to name himself. "Let's call it Haoyan." After some thought, Jun Haoyan's name, the name of Haoyan's title. He was the Saint of Haoyan. His residence should be called Haoyan Divine Peak, and his palace should be called Haoyan Divine Palace. Hearing this, the elder of the Migra's palace immediately nodded. As he struck out several primordial chi seals, 2 flamboyant characters slowly appeared on a huge stone tablet on the Holy Sun's divine mountain. Haoyan. At this moment, the second Holy Sun's divine mountain in the Langya sacred ground was named Haoyan's divine mountain. Next, this elder of the Migra's palace enthusiastically inquired about some details of Haoyan's divine mountain, and wanted Jun Haoyan to decide personally. Jun Haoyan did not understand these things very well, so he simply handed it over to Jun Moyo to deal with. Take care of flowers and plants, raise spiritual beasts, and do odd jobs. There were also formations that needed to be inscribed in each main palace. All of these were built according to the Holy Sun's specifications. No matter how big or small, Jun Moyo had arranged everything for Jun Haoyan. Soon, another day passed, and Haoyan's divine mountain was finally completed. The opening of the Holy Sun's mansion was, of course, a grand occasion in the Langya sacred ground. On this day, almost all the reputable disciples in the Langya sacred ground also came to Haoyan's divine mountain to pay their respects to Jun Haoyan, just to get acquainted. Of course, they also brought a little of their own. Treasured weapons, elixirs, and so on, could be said to have everything. As the Holy Sun, there was never a lack of elixirs, weapons, and these. Of course, Jun Haoyan still left these trivial matters to Jun Moyo to deal with. He did not want to waste too much time on these trivial matters. At this moment in Haoyan's divine palace, in a main hall, Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba were sitting in the Langya sacred grounds, Big Dipper's true disciples. Above them were Jun Moyo and Jun Haoyan. At this moment, the 4 of them were laughing and getting along very well. Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba naturally came to pay their respects to Jun Haoyan, the Langya Holy Sun. But in fact, the true disciples of the Big Dipper's status in the sacred ground was also very high. Even when facing the Holy Sun, they did not need to pay their respects in person. They just needed to send someone over and send their regards. The other true disciples of the Big Dipper did the same. Now that Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba had come personally, their actions obviously had a deeper meaning. Before Jun Haoyan, the Holy Sun of Haoyan, came, the Langya sacred ground only had Xiang Holy Sun, the Holy Sun. In the Langya sacred ground, all the disciples were not as powerful as Xiang Holy Sun. But when Jun Haoyan was conferred as the second Holy Sun of the sacred ground, the situation suddenly changed. If the Langya sacred ground were to be an empire, then Xiang Holy Sun and Jun Haoyan would be the two most powerful princes in the empire. Two dragons fighting for hegemony. In the end, whoever could ascend to the throne, in addition to their own strength, the forces under them were indispensable. In other words, Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba, you came to Jun Haoyan's divine peak personally to pay their respects to him, which showed their attitude. In the competition between the two holy sons, they chose Jun Haoyan, the new holy sun. Although none of this was made clear, everyone was well aware of it. Naturally, Jun Haoyan would not reject the two of them. At the moment, he was lacking manpower, and these two came at the right time. Moreover, based on the battle with the two of them at the conferring ceremony, he could tell that they were the kind of people who had good temperaments. These two people were very good in terms of character and other aspects. They did not resent him because of their previous failure. By the way, Holy Sun, have you heard of the Sky Demon area? Just as they were chatting happily, Bailey Xuanzi suddenly spoke. Jun Moyo and Tuoba Yu's expressions changed when they heard this. Jun Haoyan, on the other hand, looked confused. He had never heard of the Sky Demon area. Jun Moyo saw his confusion and immediately began to explain. The Sky Demon area was a special space that the Lord of Langya had opened up with his supreme divine power. This space was connected to the outer region and was not in the Wushan continent. In the Sky Demon area, there was a kind of demon clan, the Sky Demon clan. These sky demons were formless and extremely dangerous. Back then, the Lord of Langya's original intention of opening up this space was naturally to train the disciples of the Langya sacred land. Of course, the Sky Demon area was also filled with danger. The weakest of these sky demons was at the 4th level of the true energy realm. Only core disciples and true disciples were qualified to enter the Sky Demon area. Moreover, it was not just the Langya sacred land. The other sacred lands of the human race had opened up passages to the outer region to hunt sky demons. There was no other reason than the devil energy produced by hunting sky demons was extremely useful for cultivation. Not only could it temper the Dantian, it could also refine the Yuan Dan, and it could even temper the soul and body. In fact, the devil energy was one of the important methods for Yuan Dan cultivators to break through to the Imperial Dao realm. It could be said that the devil energy produced by sky demons had many wonderful uses. Therefore, every sacred land of the human race would choose to hunt sky demons once every 10 years. And now, the opening of the Sky Demon area in the Langya sacred land was not far away. Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba Yu were both at the 10th level of the Yuan Dan. Their only goal now was to break through to the Imperial Dao realm. But if they wanted to break through, they would need a large amount of devil energy. Therefore, they intended to seek help from Jun Haoyan. Chapter 123. So you want me to lend you a hand? When he heard Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba Yu's request, Jun Haoyan immediately spoke slowly. He wasn't surprised at all because he knew that Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba Yu probably had something to ask of him when they'd come knocking on his door. That was how humans were. Who would risk their lives for you if there were no benefits? If Jun Haoyan couldn't bring them benefits, then they would absolutely not seek refuge with him. At this moment, Jun Haoyan had just become the Holy Son of Langya, and he didn't have any forces under his command. If he wanted to compete with the Xiang Holy Sun, then he had to develop a force of his own. On the other hand, Bailey Xuanzi and Tuoba Yu were both Heavenly Dipper elite disciples, so their strengths were naturally formidable. The thing that Jun Haoyan paid the most attention to was that their disposition could be considered to be excellent, and that was something that Jun Haoyan really admired. Exactly. We sincerely request your assistance, Holy Sun. Bailey Xuanzi spoke slowly, and he never beat around the bush. Jun Haoyan's strength was obvious to all during the ceremony. Even if he was only at the 1st level of the Yuan Dan realm, he could rival Emperor realm experts. Alright, I agree. Jun Haoyan thought for a moment before he agreed. If he didn't give them some benefits, then they would probably be unable to completely submit to him. A trace of delight instantly appeared on Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu's faces when they heard this. Since the Holy Sun was willing to lend them a hand, then their journey to the Sky Devil region would definitely be smooth. Even though the Sky Devil region was filled with fortuitous encounters, it was a place of great danger at the same time. Even though the strongest Sky Devil in the Sky Devil region was only at the Emperor realm, Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu's strengths as Heavenly Dipper elite disciples were sufficient to deal with ordinary Emperor realm experts. But the problem was that these heavenly demons lived in groups. If they were facing one or two ordinary Emperor realm experts, then geniuses like Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu would be able to deal with them. However, if they were to face dozens or hundreds of them, even those peerless geniuses would feel their scalps go numb. The combined forces of Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu were enough to deal with the typical Skyfiend horde. If Jun Haoyan joined them this time, they would be able to escape unscathed, even if they encountered a large group of heavenly demons. The Holy Sun was ridiculously strong. Next, the four of them began to discuss the things to take note of when entering the Sky Devil region. Through the discussion, Jun Haoyan gradually gained an understanding of the Sky Devil region. The Sky Devil region was a special space. In that place, other than facing the Sky Devils, one would also have to face people from other holy lands or great sections. It could be said that the Sky Devil region was a chaotic place. Various forces intertwined with each other without any order. Back then, the ancestors of the various sacred grounds and great sects had built the spatial passageways in hopes that their disciples would be able to help each other and deal with the heavenly demons together. Unfortunately, things didn't go as they wished. After the various powers entered the Sky Devil region, not only did they not help each other for the sake of their own interests, they even killed each other for the sake of some benefits. Every time the Sky Devil region opened, more humans would die at the hands of the human race than at the hands of the heavenly demons. As time passed, the Sky Devil region became a place where the various powers resolved their conflicts. Disciples of opposing powers would attack each other without the slightest scruple in the Sky Devil region. So Jun Haoyan and the others didn't just have to be careful of the Sky Devil region this time. They even had to pay attention to the members of the other powers. So that's how it is. After he finished listening to their explanation, Jun Haoyan finally understood what sort of existence the Sky Devil region was. The Sky Devil region was like a miniature version of the martial god continent, and it was a miniature version of the battles between the various powers. Even if the disciples of the Holy Lands were killed there, no one would care. The thing that Jun Haoyan cared about the most was that the Sky Devil region actually couldn't accommodate cultivators at the Imperial Dao realm. This meant that the strongest cultivator in the Sky Devil region was only at the 10th level of the Yuan Dan realm. Of course, this didn't include the Sky Devil clan, because their cultivations weren't restricted in the Sky Devil region. This was the main reason why Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu had come looking for Jun Haoyan. Based on the strength Jun Haoyan revealed during the title bestowment ceremony, he could be said to be invincible beneath the Imperial Dao realm. With the protection of such an existence, wouldn't he be like a fish in water in the Sky Devil region? When he heard up to this point, Jun Haoyan grew more and more interested in the Sky Devil region. When the time comes, I hope the Holy Sun will act personally. When they were almost done discussing, Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu stood up and bowed slightly once more. Don't worry, you'll definitely be safe with me here. Jun Haoyan grinned and revealed an extraordinary bearing. Through this period of discussion, Jun Haoyan had gained a deeper understanding of the martial god continent. The more he learned, the more curious Jun Haoyan became about the martial god continent. In the past, he'd been born in a small place like Soaring Dragon City, so he knew very little about the outside world. Now that someone was explaining it to him, it would be extremely beneficial to him when he traveled the martial god continent in the future. Now that someone was helping him to clear up his doubts, it would be of great help to him when he traveled the martial god continent in the future. Alright, it's already dark. I still have to make a trip to the scripture pavilion tomorrow, so I won't be seeing you off. Jun Haoyan stood up with a smile on his face. The scripture pavilion in the Langya sacred ground had all sorts of divine abilities and secret techniques. If he wanted to cultivate them, he had to make some preparations. The Holy Sun is going to the scripture pavilion tomorrow? Bailey Schwanza and Tuoba, you were slightly surprised when they heard Jun Haoyan. Yes, what's wrong? Seeing their reaction, Jun Haoyan was stunned. Could it be that there was something special about going to the scripture pavilion? There's no problem. I'm just curious about what kind of divine ability the Holy Sun will be recognized by. Tuoba Yu explained slowly with a smile on his face. Recognition? Did the scripture pavilion require recognition to select a cultivation technique? Hearing this, Jun Haoyan immediately revealed a trace of doubt. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan immediately looked at Jun Moyo with a trace of curiosity. When Jun Moyo saw Jun Haoyan's expression, he found it funny. Her younger brother was indeed a genius, but unfortunately, he didn't know much about the world. However, Jun Haoyan couldn't be blamed. After all, he had only been in the Langya sacred ground for a few months. The Langya sacred ground was one of the 7 sacred grounds of the human race. It had been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, and its foundation was astonishing. It wasn't something that could be seen in a short period of time. This scripture pavilion has other secrets hidden. Then, Jun Moyo explained to Jun Haoyan. The Langya scripture pavilion was the place where all kinds of divine abilities and cultivation techniques were stored in the Langya sacred ground. With 180,000 years of foundation, there were hundreds of thousands of divine abilities and cultivation techniques. If one wanted to flip through the books one by one to find a suitable one, who knew how long it would take? Therefore, the ancestors of the Langya sacred ground set up a large array in the scripture pavilion. The disciples who entered the scripture pavilion only needed to release their own aura, and the cultivation techniques and divine abilities that matched their aura would automatically fly out. Only these recognized cultivation techniques and divine abilities could be cultivated. The divine abilities were divided into minor divine abilities, major divine abilities, supreme divine abilities, and supreme emperor techniques. If one entered the scripture pavilion and was recognized by a supreme divine ability, one could cultivate this supreme divine ability. If one was recognized by a minor divine ability, one could only cultivate this minor divine ability. No matter how high one's cultivation was, or how high one's status was, one had to abide by this rule. That was why Tuoba Yu was very curious about what kind of divine ability Jun Haoyan could obtain. After all, no one knew to what extent the Holy Sun could achieve after being recognized by the 9 ancestors. I see. Jun Haoyan smiled. As expected, he was still too inexperienced. However, he seemed to have thought of something and asked again. What kind of divine ability has Xiang Holy Sun been recognized by? After all, the Purple Sun sacred ground was his greatest enemy in the future. Naturally, he had to know more about them. 5 major divine abilities and 3 supreme divine abilities. Hearing this, Bailey Schwanza spoke slowly with a serious expression. Even Tuoba Yu couldn't help but reveal a trace of envy on his face. That was a supreme divine ability. Even some of the Grand Elders couldn't cultivate it. Supreme divine ability? Hearing this, Jun Haoyan pondered for a moment. Xiang Holy Sun was really qualified to be recognized by a supreme divine ability. However, Jun Haoyan smiled and said calmly, "How many supreme emperor techniques are there in the scripture pavilion?" Chapter 124. How many supreme emperor techniques are there in the hidden book pavilion? The moment Jun Haoyan's words left his mouth, the 3 people present were shocked beyond belief. Jun Haoyan's words were full of confidence, revealing his determination to obtain the Supreme Emperor Technique. The Supreme Emperor Technique. It was the highest level secret technique in the Hidden Book Pavilion. As one of the 7 great sacred grounds of the human race, the Langya sacred ground was passed down from a Supreme Emperor. Not only did it have a supreme weapon, but it also had a Supreme Emperor Technique. However, both the supreme weapon and the Supreme Emperor Technique were the greatest treasures of the Langya sacred ground, and would not be easily shown to others. Not to mention the other outer and inner disciples. Even Bailey Schwanza, a true disciple of the Big Dipper sect, had never seen the supreme weapon of the Langya sacred ground. As for the Supreme Emperor technique, everyone knew that it was hidden at the highest point of the Hidden Book Pavilion. Everyone who entered the Hidden Book Pavilion had a chance to obtain a Supreme Emperor technique. The prerequisite was to obtain the recognition of the Supreme Emperor technique. Without the recognition of the technique, no one could cultivate it. Back then, the Lord of Langya had set up a heaven-defying array in the Hidden Realm Pavilion. Without the recognition of the technique, even a sacred lord could not break this rule. Jun Haoyan's goal was the Supreme Emperor technique. It had to be said that Jun Haoyan's words were too arrogant. At least, that was what Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu thought. Jun Moyo was also in disbelief when Jun Haoyan spoke. However, when he thought of Jun Haoyan's possible identity, he felt that it was not impossible. After thinking for a while, Bailey Schwanza slowly replied, "There are a total of 2 Supreme Emperor techniques in the Langya sacred ground. One is a body-tempering emperor technique, and the other is a cultivation technique. I only heard of these 2 emperor techniques by chance. As for their names, I don't know either." At the mention of the Supreme Emperor techniques, Bailey Schwanza's eyes flashed with a hint of longing. The Supreme Emperor technique was a supreme cultivation technique that could only be created by a Supreme Emperor expert. As a true disciple of Big Dipper, he was considered one of the best disciples in the Langya Holy Land. Even so, without being acknowledged, they would not be able to come into contact with the Supreme Emperor arts. According to the ancient records, the last time someone obtained a Supreme Emperor technique was 30,000 years ago, Jun Moyo said slowly. For 30,000 years, no one had ever obtained a Supreme Emperor technique. I, the Holy Sun, will definitely obtain this Supreme Emperor technique. Hearing this, Jun Haoyan said confidently. With the potential of a divine body, there was no cultivation technique that could resist him. Then let us congratulate the Holy Sun in advance for obtaining the recognition of the Supreme Emperor technique. Seeing that Jun Haoyan was so confident, Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu immediately congratulated him. Although they said that, in their hearts, they were worried that Jun Haoyan would fail. How could a Supreme Emperor technique be recognized so easily? Then, the 4 of them chatted for a while before Bailey Schwanza and Tuobayu left the Haotian Divine Peak. After the 2 of them left, Jun Moyo talked about the Essence Repository again, before leaving the Haotian Divine Peak. Then, Jun Haoyan slowly walked into the main hall that he used for cultivation. There were 108 arrays that gathered the essence chi of heaven and earth in the main hall. The essence chi inside was 100 times more concentrated than outside. In the Langya Holy Land, apart from the Holy Master and the Grand Elder, only the Holy Sun could receive such treatment. Feeling the essence chi of heaven and earth in the void, Jun Haoyan took a deep breath and started cultivating. Now he had reached the peak of Yuan Dan Realm Level 1, and had awakened 30,000 giant elephant seeds in his body. His genuine vitality, physical body, and superpowers were all top-notch. For the entire night, Jun Haoyan had been immersed in cultivation. Although he had condensed the divine body, it was a pity that he could not fully utilize the power of the divine body. According to the ancient records, when the saint physique was developed to a high level, one could be reborn from a drop of blood. Their physical body was immortal and indestructible. In order to do this, he needed a divine body refining physique. He needed a Supreme Emperor level body tempering technique. In the previous few times he signed in, Jun Haoyan didn't obtain any body cultivation divine arts. I wonder how effective the body tempering Supreme Emperor technique in the Hidden Jing Pavilion is? Jun Haoyan mumbled to himself with anticipation in his heart. Bailey Schwanza had said that there was a supreme-level body tempering emperor art in the scripture depository. This emperor technique was left behind by the Lord Langya. If he could obtain that sovereign emperor technique, he would be able to utilize his divine body to its fullest potential. At that time, his strength would soar again. As for the other supreme technique that Bailey Schwanza had mentioned, Jun Haoyan didn't care much about it. The strength of the hell-crushing divine statue, the heavenly demonic technique, and the heaven-devouring demonic technique were all supreme techniques. There was probably no technique in the martial god continent that could compare to such techniques. Therefore, Jun Haoyan naturally didn't plan to change to another technique. His only purpose in entering the scripture depository was that supreme body tempering technique. Thinking of this, he threw away all distracting thoughts and waited for the next day. The next morning, the scripture depository of the Langya Holy Land was crowded. Countless outer and inner disciples gathered at the entrance of the scripture depository. For some reason, no one dared to enter the scripture depository. They seemed to be waiting for someone. This made the elder in charge of guarding the scripture depository feel strange. Although there were usually many people in the scripture depository, there shouldn't be so many people in the scripture depository. What was going on today? Did you hear that the Holy Son of Haoyan is going to enter the scripture depository today to obtain a divine ability? Of course, our Holy Son of Haoyan said that he wants to be recognized by the Supreme Emperor technique. You know about this too. I heard it from my successor senior brother last night. Otherwise, why would the scripture depository be so crowded today? Recognized by the Supreme Emperor technique? Even the Xiang Holy Sun couldn't do it. It's not just the Purple Sun Saint Sun. Apart from the incident 30,000 years ago in the plaza of the library, there is no one else. That's strange. Where did the Holy Son of Haoyan get his confidence from? All the disciples whispered to each other. It turned out that they were gathered here today because someone had spread the news. Today, the Holy Son of Haoyan, Jun Haoyan, was going to enter the scripture depository. He wanted to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique. At first, some people absolutely didn't believe it. However, the more the news spread, the more people couldn't help but doubt it. Was there anyone who dared to spread rumors about the Holy Son of Haoyan? Were they tired of living? Furthermore, didn't they see that even the 7 hall elders and hall masters had come? Everyone understood that the Holy Son of Haoyan wanted to enter the scripture depository to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique. It was true. Therefore, the disciples were basically here to watch the show. Some people wanted to see what would happen if the Supreme Emperor technique recognized him. Of course, most people were here to laugh. There were many Holy Son of Haoyan saint in the past, but none of them were recognized by the Supreme Emperor technique. Could it be that the Holy Son of Haoyan could do it? Look, the Holy Son of Haoyan is here. A disciple with sharp eyes looked into the void. Chapter 125. Upon hearing this, everyone turned to look in the direction of that person's gaze. At this moment, the 7 temple masters and elders above the void were also alarmed and turned to look at Jun Haoyan. Above the void not far away, Jun Haoyan, dressed in a purple robe, stepped on the void and walked toward the depository of scriptures casually. The purple robe he wore was the Holy Sun costume specially made for him by the Langya Holy Land. It was engraved with the pattern of a real dragon, making him look like an emperor descending to the world. Although Jun Haoyan's cultivation was only at the first level of Yuan Dan realm, the aura he emitted made some of the high-level Yuan Dan realm cultivators around him feel somewhat fearful. Wherever Jun Haoyan passed by, a tyrannical pressure would sweep out in all directions. Some of the disciples of the Langya Holy Land with low cultivation involuntarily knelt down to Jun Haoyan when they felt this aura. Unlike when he left Soaring Dragon City, Jun Haoyan was no longer the little warrior he used to be. As the Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land, he naturally carried a special aura, the aura of a superior. Carrying the power of luck of the Langya Holy Land, Jun Haoyan's aura was naturally extraordinary. Welcome, Holy Son of Haoyan. Some of the true disciples with high cultivation bowed to Jun Haoyan respectfully when they saw him. As the Holy Son of the Langya Holy Land, he was like a secular crown prince. The other disciples, regardless of their status, had to bow to Jun Haoyan. However, when Jun Haoyan saw someone in the crowd, he was surprised and said, "Sister, you're here too. Of course I have to join in on such a lively occasion." The person who came was naturally Jun Moyo. She looked at the sea of people around her and said helplessly, Bailey Schwanza and Tuoba, you really have big mouths. Only the four of them knew that Jun Haotian was going to the depository of scriptures to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique. The current commotion naturally had something to do with Bailey Schwanza and Tuoba. It's okay. Hearing this, Jun Haotian smiled faintly and did not mind at all. He was not surprised that there was such a crowd today. After all, in the past 30,000 years, no one had obtained the Supreme Emperor technique. Naturally, the sudden news that Jun Haotian wanted to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique caused a commotion. Of course, in his heart, Jun Haotian knew that many people were here to laugh at him. Even though he was already the Holy Sun, the Langya disciples in Xiang Holy Sun's camp would definitely not accept him. At this moment, the news that he wanted to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique had already spread throughout the Langya sacred ground. If he did not succeed in obtaining the Supreme Emperor technique, it would be a slap in the face. He believed that the people in Xiang sacred grounds camp would make an issue out of it. Many people understood this very well. In another part of the void, the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, and a few supreme elders also looked over. Holy Lord, do you think Hao Tian can obtain the recognition of the Supreme Emperor technique? A supreme elder said. The Haotian he was talking about was naturally Jun Haotian. It's extremely difficult to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique. However, since Hao Tian dares to make such a bold claim, I believe he has some confidence in obtaining it, Tao Xian said slowly. Hao Tian is such a show-off. A supreme elder looked at the countless disciples around the scripture depository and said helplessly, every time the Holy Sun Hao Tian appeared, he would definitely cause a huge commotion. In the short few months that he had been in the sacred ground, almost the entire Langya sacred ground revolved around him. Perhaps this was what a genius was like. Wherever he went, he would be the center of attention. The last time the Supreme Emperor technique appeared was 30,000 years ago. Where did Hao Tian get the confidence to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique? If he fails, a supreme elder frowned. Jun Haotian had already made such a bold claim. If he could not obtain the Supreme Emperor technique, wouldn't it damage the dignity of the Holy Sun? That's right. This is too reckless. If he can't accept failure, it might affect his Tao heart. A peerless genius had always been arrogant. If he failed, it was very likely that his future cultivation would be affected, or even his luck. This was what the Supreme Elders and Tao Xian were worried about. Hao Tian is different from ordinary people. Let him walk his own path. We old guys shouldn't interfere too much. Another Supreme Elder spoke, and the others nodded. In the end, one had to rely on oneself to walk the path. At this moment, Jun Haotian had already arrived in front of the scripture depository. He slowly sized up the scripture depository. It was a tall tower that was hundreds of feet tall, and had a total of 9 floors. On the tower, there were carvings of various flowers, birds, fish, insects, and beasts. These carvings were very charming, as if they were about to rush out, and they revealed an ancient aura. Without any hesitation, Jun Haotian slowly walked toward the entrance of the scripture depository. Welcome, Holy Sun Hao Tian. At the entrance of the scripture depository, the guardian elder bowed to Jun Haotian. Nodding, Jun Haotian directly stepped into the scripture depository. Without hesitation, he stepped into the scripture depository. Seeing this, everyone turned their attention to Jun Haotian. Because of the formation left behind by the Lord Langya, there was no need to worry about others secretly learning the cultivation method. Therefore, there was no formation to isolate the soul in the scripture depository. When Jun Haotian stepped into the scripture depository, everyone used a secret technique and probed the scripture depository with their soul power. At this moment, Jun Haotian stepped out and stepped into the scripture depository. Buzz! The moment he stepped into the scripture depository, rays of light flowed around him. Jun Haotian felt a slight obstruction, preventing him from moving forward. Without paying attention, Jun Haotian let the light flow around his body. This was the identity check to enter the scripture depository. To enter the scripture depository, one had to pass through this assessment light. This light also had another function. which was to identify the disciples' level. The Langya sacred ground had a rule that outer and inner sect disciples could only enter the scripture depository once every 10 years. Core disciples could enter twice, while core disciples could enter thrice. Of course, as the Holy Son of Langya, Jun Haoyan had no restrictions. He could enter whenever he wanted. When the assessment light shone on Jun Haoyan's body, the 9 Langya Holy Sun imprints in Jun Haoyan's energy center suddenly emitted a gentle light. Then, the force that was hindering Jun Haoyan's progress immediately disappeared. Without hesitation, Jun Haoyan continued to move toward the scripture depository. The moment Jun Haoyan stepped into the scripture depository, he was surprised by the scene inside. From the outside, the scripture depository should have 9 floors. But in reality, the entire scripture depository only had 1 floor. Just 1 floor alone was a few hundred feet tall, and it was shaped like a pyramid. The higher it went, the narrower it became, and the fewer cultivation methods and abilities there were. After being slightly surprised, Jun Haoyan began to look around the scripture depository. He was surrounded by rows of bookshelves that were densely arranged all the way to the top. At a glance, he could see from bottom to top. Above the bookshelves, as far as the eye could see, there were countless cultivation methods and abilities arranged in a row. There were hundreds of thousands of books, and Jun Haoyan was among them. Paper books were neatly arranged in a row. This was the first area of the scripture depository, and it recorded all the minor abilities. In the second area, all the paper books had disappeared. In their place were white jade slips. These jade slips recorded all the major abilities. As for the third area, there were balls of light. Although there were few, their auras were extremely dense and uniform. Obviously, the abilities and cultivation methods of that level were the most precious. As one of the 7 great sacred lands of the human race, the foundation of the Langya sacred lands is indeed unfathomable. Seeing the shocking scene in front of him, Jun Haoyan immediately sighed in his heart. Moreover, he guessed that this was probably not all the foundation of the Langya sacred lands. A moment later, Jun Haoyan slowly sat cross-legged and slowly merged his aura with the scripture depository. Countless people watched this scene and waited quietly. Chapter 126. As Jun Haoyan channeled his true origin, a powerful aura suddenly spread out. Streaks of golden qi and blood slowly appeared around Jun Haoyan and gushed out from his body. A vast and terrifying true origin spread out in the sutra depository. This aura did not seem like something a first-level Yuan Dan could emit. Fortunately, there were no other disciples present in the sutra depository. Otherwise, this aura alone would have suffocated them. At this moment, all the disciples and higher-ups in the Langya holy ground were looking at Jun Haoyan. Compared to whether Jun Haoyan could obtain the Supreme Emperor technique, most of them were more curious about whether Jun Haoyan could surpass Xing Holy Sun. After all, the Supreme Emperor technique was too far away. Ziyang Holy Sun had obtained the recognition of 5 lesser superpowers and 3 greater superpowers in the Sutra Depository. Even though these were not obtained on the first try, such results were enough to shock everyone. If Jun Haoyan wanted to surpass Ziyang Holy Sun, he would have to obtain the recognition of at least 3 greater superpowers. Everyone was curious to see how far the newly promoted Holy Son of Great Heaven could go. At this moment, Jun Haoyan had already merged his aura into the Sutra Depository. Buzz! At this moment, the entire Sutra Depository began to vibrate. Then countless paper books in the first district began to vibrate. Almost all of these books recorded cultivation methods of the lesser divine ability level. In the next moment, all the paper books in the first district rushed out of the bookshelves and headed toward Jun Haoyan. Then a scene that shocked everyone happened. These books seemed to have gone crazy, as they revolved around Jun Haoyan incessantly. Seeing this scene, everyone's faces turned pale with fright. Well, what's going on? Why are all these superpowers revolving around the Holy Son of Great Heaven? Could it be the Holy Son of Great Heaven has obtained the recognition of all the superpowers in the first district? Everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. Such a scene had never happened before. Even the faces of the elders were filled with shock. After the initial shock, a bitter smile appeared on his face. The holy son of Haotian's talent was too terrifying. While everyone was still in shock, Jun Haotian slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the paper books around him without any ripples in his eyes. He did not have the slightest intention of choosing. In the next moment, the true essence in his body surged, and a huge wave of origin chi exploded around him. Immediately after, all the paper books were repelled by him. He disdained to cultivate a mere minor ability. However, his actions immediately stunned everyone present. His mind was filled with disbelief. It was as if he saw the goddess he had always been licking was now licking someone else's boots. And that person had a look of disdain on his face. Indeed, comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. There are only minor superpowers in the first district. In terms of talent, the Holy Son of Great Heaven is still inferior to the Xiang Holy Son. When a true disciple saw this scene, he said with a hint of jealousy, "That's right. Although there are many of them, minor superpowers are still minor superpowers. They cannot be compared to major superpowers." Another true disciple echoed. These two true disciples were naturally from the Xiang Holy Son's camp. At this moment, when they saw Jun Haotian's shocking scene, they immediately compared Jun Haotian to the Xiang Holy Son. Even though Jun Haotian had obtained the recognition of all the superpowers in the first district, in their opinion, he was still inferior to the Xiang Holy Son. However, just as they were thinking about this, an even more violent aura surged out of the sutra depository. Jun Haotian was still sitting on the ground, and he directly exposed the aura of his holy body. Rumble, streams of golden chi and blood roared, and turned into an endless golden ocean. Jun Haotian directly activated his holy body, and slowly merged into the sutra depository. Sizzle! The next moment, the entire sutra depository vibrated again. At the same time, all the jade slips that recorded superpowers in the second district shone brightly. The dazzling light suddenly filled the entire sutra depository. Then, these jade slips directly shot out from the bookshelves and rushed toward Jun Haotian. Then, just like the classics in the first district, they turned into streams of light and circled around Jun Haotian. In just a short while, all the jade slips in the second district flew out and surrounded Jun Haotian, kneeling and licking him. It looked as if they were saying, "Cultivate me, please? Pervert." At this moment, the guardian elder of the sutra depository could not help but curse. He did not care about his dignity as an elder at all. He had been guarding the sutra depository for hundreds of years, and he had never seen such a strange scene. When the disciples of the Langya Holy Land outside the sutra depository saw this scene, they were all dumbfounded. The second area was filled with great mystiques. There were a total of hundreds of superpowers recorded here. Some of the true disciples tried their best, but in the end, they could not even cultivate a single superpower. However, these superpowers, which were usually incomparably cold, were now circling around Jun Haotian, as if they were trying to flatter him. The Holy Son of Haotian was indeed a holy body. They could not compare to him at all. As for the 7 temple elders and temple masters, they looked at each other. No matter how one looked at it, the purple sun Saint Sun would definitely be inferior to him. When the Holy Lord Tao Xian saw this scene, he smiled slightly. The Holy Son of Haotian's performance was always beyond his expectations. I wonder which great divine powers will Haotian choose to cultivate. When a Grand Supreme Elder saw this scene, he said slowly, in his eyes, even if Jun Haotian did not fulfill his promise of obtaining the Supreme Emperor technique. However, to be recognized by hundreds of superpowers was already heaven-defying enough. No, he has returned all the superpowers. Another Grand Supreme Elder said with a hint of shock in his cloudy eyes. What is the Holy Son of Haotian trying to do? At this moment everyone noticed this scene. Look, the Holy Son of Haotian is going to communicate with the third district. The third district contains at least the supreme superpowers and Supreme Emperor techniques. Is the Holy Son of Haotian really only after the Supreme Emperor technique? Some people said in disbelief. They were extremely shocked. They did not expect Jun Haotian to be telling the truth. He only wanted the Supreme Emperor technique, and did not care about anything else. In fact, they were right. Jun Haoyan did not want to cultivate superpowers below the 3rd district. Superpowers were good, but he knew that he should not bite off more than he could chew. It was better to cultivate the strongest ones. Besides, if there were more powerful superpowers, would he choose the second best? The answer was of course no. Jun Haoyan was the same as everyone else. Since he wanted to cultivate, he wanted the best. Then Jun Haoyan calmed his mind. At this moment, the aura of his sacred body burst out without reservation. Waves of chi and blood power roared. The 30,000 giant elephant cells in his body roared violently. At this moment, Jun Haoyan completely merged his aura with the sutra depository. He began to communicate with the 3rd district. Chapter 127. When Jun Haoyan's terrifying aura erupted, everyone could feel Jun Haoyan's determination. They knew that Jun Haoyan only had one goal, and that was to obtain the Supreme Emperor technique, the highest level of divine powers and secret skills in the entire scripture depository. Everyone stared at Jun Haoyan, waiting to see if he could create a miracle. Perhaps today was the day to witness a miracle? In the void, all the true disciples had their attention on Jun Haoyan, and their expressions were somewhat complicated. Feng Xiaoyao, do you think the holy son of Haoyan can obtain the Supreme Emperor technique? Dugabo, who was beside Feng Xiaoyao, asked slowly. Hearing this, Feng Xiaoyao shook his head and said with certainty, "This is absolutely impossible. The Supreme Emperor technique has not appeared in the world for 30,000 years." Feng Xiaoyao did not believe that Jun Haoyan could obtain the Supreme Emperor technique. After all, the person from 30,000 years ago had strength comparable to the 9 great sages, and was one of the most talented people in the Langya Holy Land. It was too difficult to obtain the recognition of the Supreme Emperor technique. Hearing this, Dugabo's eyes flashed with a strange light, but he did not say anything. The two of them did not wish for Jun Haoyan to fail. As the 2 strongest heavenly star true disciples on the Langya Holy Land's Langya list, Feng Xiaoyao and Dugabo naturally had a sense of pride in their hearts. When Ziyang Holy Sun was frantically building his own forces, the two of them had not accepted Ziyang Holy Sun's invitation. After Jun Haoyan became the Holy Son of Haoyan, they did not express their desire to join the team and remain neutral. To the two of them, it did not matter who became the Holy Lord of Langya in the future. However, at this moment, Dugabo suddenly recalled Jun Haoyan's unparalleled elegance during the coronation ceremony. He could not help but mutter to himself, "What if the Holy Son of Great Heaven succeeds? Looks like you think very highly of him. If he succeeds, I..." Hearing this, Feng Xiaoyao looked at Dugabo with a meaningful gaze. He wanted to say something, but stopped himself. "If he succeeds, what will you do?" Dugabo seemed to have seen through Feng Xiaoyao's thoughts and asked with a smile. If he succeeds, I, Feng Xiaoyao, will submit to him." After being stunned for a moment, Feng Xiaoyao said decisively, "I, Feng Xiaoyao, am not ashamed to submit to someone who can obtain a Supreme Emperor technique." Feng Xiaoyao was an extremely proud person. Even though Ziyang Holy Sun had tried many times to rope him in, he did not submit to him. However, Jun Haoyan was really able to obtain the approval of a Supreme Emperor technique. For him, it was an honor to be able to follow such an existence. "Ha ha ha. I didn't expect you to have the same idea as me." Dugabo laughed. At this moment, the two of them looked at each other and felt the determination in each other's eyes. Although they had been rivals for many years, they were also friends. Of course, they knew what each other was thinking at this moment. Without saying anything more, they once again looked at the hidden scriptures pavilion. Perhaps the Holy Son of Great Heaven could really create a miracle. However, Feng Xiaoyao and Dugabo did not notice that not far behind them, a man was staring at their backs from time to time with a cold expression. Han Tianhe, the true disciple of Big Dipper, ranked 5th on the Langya list. Although Han Tianhe maintained a neutral position on the surface, he had secretly joined Ziyang Holy Sun. Looking at the backs of Feng Xiaoyao and Dugabo, a strange light flashed in Han Tianhe's eyes. If Jun Haoyan really obtains the approval of a Supreme Emperor technique today, I'm afraid that most of the true disciples of Big Dipper will join Jun Haoyan. Han Tianhe thought to himself, and decided that he had to inform Xiang Holy Sun to return immediately. Only when Xiang Holy Sun returned could he suppress Jun Haoyan with his unparalleled power and turn the situation around. At this moment, in the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, Jun Haoyan had completely released the aura of his divine body and merged it with the entire Hidden Scriptures Pavilion. 12 demon god phantoms floated around him. Next, his unparalleled aura directly approached the third area. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The moment Jun Haoyan's aura reached the third area, the white light balls on the bookshelves suddenly vibrated violently. They were the inheritances of 10 supreme superpowers. Seeing this scene, everyone held their breaths and stared intently at the scene in the third region. Even though Langya Sacred Ground was one of the 7 sacred grounds of the human race, there were only 10 supreme superpowers. Looking at the current situation, there were already 5 or 6 supreme superpowers that were violently vibrating. Boom! In the next moment, Jun Haoyan pushed his divine body to the extreme. His entire body seemed to have turned into a golden furnace that could burn everything. His golden chi and blood boiled like 100,000 volcanoes erupting. It was also at this time that in the third level, all the balls of light that represented supreme supernatural abilities rushed out of the bookshelves and revolved around Jun Haoyan like stars. This scene completely shocked everyone. Oh my god, 10 supreme superpowers! This is the Holy Son of Great Heaven trying to defy the natural order? 10 supreme superpowers. This result has completely surpassed the Xiang Holy Sun. Countless people looked at this scene with eyes full of disbelief. Xiang Holy Sun had only inherited 3 supreme superpowers so far. However, Jun Haoyan, the newly promoted Holy Son of Great Heaven, had all the supreme superpowers actively surrounded him and begged him to cultivate. In this comparison, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. The Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, and the Grand Supreme Elders were also slightly shocked when they saw this scene. But soon they frowned. Although the 10 supreme superpowers recognized Jun Haoyan, the 2 supreme secret skills did not move at all. Obviously, they had not recognized Jun Haoyan yet. This meant that Jun Haoyan had failed. Feng Xiaoyao and Dugabo also noticed this scene and immediately frowned. They were a little disappointed that the Supreme Emperor technique could not be used in the end. The Supreme Emperor technique was created by the Lord of Langya. Although the Holy Son of Great Heaven is extremely talented, he is still a little too young. At this moment, Han Tianhe's voice slowly sounded. Behind him, a few Big Dipper true disciples nodded. The Holy Son of Great Heaven should be proud to have achieved such a result. Yes, although he has not been recognized by the Supreme Emperor technique, 10 supreme superpowers is already very good. These people were all true disciples who had secretly joined the ranks of the Xiang Holy Sun. At this moment, they seemed to be praising Jun Haoyan, but in fact, they were secretly mocking him. How dare you talk about the Holy Son of Great Heaven? Do you want to die? At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded behind them. Bailey Schwanza held the Moxie sword and appeared behind them unknowingly. He hugged the ancient sword, and his entire body was like a sword. Brother Bailey, you're here too. Seeing Bailey Schwanza, Feng Xiaoyao and Dugabo smiled knowingly and invited him. Brother Bailey, why lower yourself to their level? Come here and let the 3 of us talk about our recent cultivation realizations. Bailey Schwanza did not hesitate and stood beside the 2 of them. Hearing this, Han Tianhe and the others were furious, but they quickly calmed down. He snorted coldly, but did not dare to say anything. These 3 people were all much stronger than him. In the Sutra Depository, Jun Haoyan slowly opened his eyes and looked at the 10 supreme superpowers floating around him. There was no change in his expression. His gaze was slowly fixed on the 2 supreme emperor techniques at the top of the Sutra Depository. It seems that if I don't give you a hard time, you won't give in. A cold light flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, Jun Haoyan calmed his mind and withdrew his aura. Then he slowly activated the 2 supreme skills. Secret of all. Sovereign's Descent. 2 supreme emperor techniques. At the same time, You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.